The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Hello. Good evening and welcome to Damn You Hollywood. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna. And let's just go ahead and get into this. At 2:17 on Wednesday night, he left his home and he was never seen again. And then he somehow showed up on the podcast, and we still have no idea what happened. Mr. Robert Winfree.
You know, having considered the actual bit of narration there, when it just says the kids never came back, when we get to the ending, that has a slightly more chilling implication than you might think at first blush.
Oh, yeah. Very true.
Also here with us is Jayson Teasley, back for the second week in a row. We are running him ragged over here. How you doing, Jayson?
I'm doing good. Speaking of running ragged, so is my job, but that's a whole different story. I can't complain. Got a cut of 7 o'clock, thought I was going to be late. Then we had thought I was going to be coming from the void, and then all of a sudden my camera starts working. So here we are, ready to talk weapons.
As Jason mentioned, yeah, we're talking the #1 movie of the weekend. Spoiler for when we briefly discussed the money. Mark and I talked about it last week just a little bit, but yeah, Weapons outdueled Freakier Friday, and I'll take any hit to crappy nostalgia bait that I can these days. While Fantastic Four First Steps fell all the way to third, and the panic at Marvel is real. But we'll get, again, that's for later. Yeah, Weapons is, and I'm going to infringe on Mark's gimmick here, a 2025 supernatural horror mystery. Hang on.
/ psychological thriller.
A mystery horror film. There we go. Written, co-produced, and directed by Zach Cregger of Barbarian fame, or infamy, depending on where you stand on that movie.
I was going to say, apparently Barbarian was big enough to get this some serious buzz. Apparently, the spec script for this film was in a bidding war again with Universal, Netflix, Sony, and TriStar. Part of the deal was an 8-figure sum of money, guaranteed green light for production, final cut privileges for Cregger, interest in a back-end plot, and most importantly, in the closing of the deal, the guarantee of a theatrical release. Cregger said flat out, if you tell me you want to you want to make this thing and ship it to streaming, no.
Also, I'll here in a little bit, I'll drop another little nugget that adds to that. And it's the reason why Monkey Paw was actually in this, and Jordan Peele fired both of his agents because they could not secure the rights.
That's true. Jordan Peele did, because they wound up passing on the monkey. And instead, he's producing Him, which is a more Jordan Peele movie where he can just blame the rich white billionaire when it's all said and done. Anyway.
Which I'll also be a part of reviewing that.
We will be, actually, yes. So Weapons stars Josh Brolin, thank heavens. More on that later. Julia Garner, Carrie Christopher, Alden Ehrenreich, Austin Abrams, Benedict Wong, and Amy Madigan.
Along with a handful of faces from Barbarian reprising their roles, because Lord no Justin Long said, "Oh good, a horror movie where I don't die? I'm in."
You didn't die in Tusk. And
Probably
I
wishes he was
apologize for
dead.
giving all of you PTSD flashbacks there.
That movie actually legit freaked me out. I had the worst time trying to watch it.
All right, so before we jump into weapons, let me start with this very quickly because we're not getting into the plot yet, but if this movie sounds interesting to you, if you've had an inclination to see it, I would encourage you to not listen to the plot synopsis. Go in as blind as possible. The movie's a little bit better off for it. So now we do spoil the crap out of things here as a general rule. So I say that just because, so you're aware. And again, if you want to go see this movie, go in as blind as you can. You will have a better time.
Yeah, a lot of critics actually said if you haven't seen anything, if you want to see any of the trailers, see the teaser, not the full trailer, because even that, if you try to dissect that, may give away too much. This is, I would say, very similar to like the early works of M. Night Shyamalan, in which the less you know, the more you're going to enjoy this film.
Yeah, I would avoid trailers altogether. With this, I would avoid everything possible pertaining to this movie. Just go in with an open mind.
Definitely.
All right, so before we jump into this movie, real quick, go around the horn real fast, sort of. So Cregger now has 2 movies under his belt, Barbarian and this. What led all of us to being interested in this? Again, the marketing has been good. Let me start there, but there's a lot of horror movies released every year. Fewer and fewer of them get theatrical because that's just the world we're heading towards, for better or for worse. But what stuck out about this one, and if you wanted to give your 30, 40 second thought on Barbarian while you're at it, because it's not super relevant, because how do I phrase this? It's not like we have to review Barbarian here, but because that was Cregger's first film, and what relationship that might have to your enthusiasm before seeing Weapons, or might have drawn you to it, it's again potentially a factor. So, Alexis, you want to start that off? Like, what kind of drew you to this one to begin with? And or your thoughts on Barbarian, because who doesn't love a movie that shifts its tone halfway through radically?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I know that I had approached you guys about doing Together, which we reviewed last weekend. And I can't remember, one of you said, are we doing Weapons? And I had just seen the teaser for that. And what caught my eye about Weapons was, again, very similar to Barbarian, was the fact that the teaser was so bare bones, revealing very little about the movie, which again, Barbarian excelled at. You go into Barbarian, you have no idea what's going on, except it's linked to this Airbnb/Verbo, whatever vacation, home that has accidentally been double booked by a man and a woman. You know nothing else. And and you find yourself guessing through the whole movie, like, okay, so what's going on? Is one of them evil? I mean, the male is played by Bill Skarsgård, fresh off of playing Pennywise. So we're probably all thinking, okay, yep, he's the monster. He's a serial killer. Get it over with. And yeah, Andre and I watched Barbarian and we loved it. We just loved how it was so surprising, so twisted, and so well done. So when you see a movie like this following a very similar plate from the same writer and director, you can't help but go, okay, you're obviously doing what works. Let's see if lightning strikes twice. And frankly, I think it did.
Yeah, Jason?
Well, I mean, I've seen half of Barbarian. I've never completely watched it. So, but I know how it ends. So there's not like some big thing. And I think I may have suggested this right after one of you suggested Together, because we was reviewing something and I had seen the teaser in the theater, and it just so happened to be that. And it was very bare bones. And the only thing you get to know is there's a teacher whose class disappeared and nobody knows why. And that instantly hooked me, because it was one of those, okay, why? You start building your own backstory. So you start questioning everything. You go, why is it just her class? What's going on? What does she have something to do with it? And it was very, very um, shroud in mystery, which is something that I love. I love not knowing and not being able to predict anything. And that's what we run into a lot in trailers now. The trailers give away everything before the movie, and it spoils the movie. There's very rarely movies that you can see a trailer and go, okay, that intrigues me, without going, okay, that ruined a big surprise or a big reveal in the film. We see it all the time, and we complain about it all the time. But this was very, especially with the creepy voiceover that we hear during the movie, and it plays out like an anthology, which was a surprise to me. And it's just one of those movies that just, I guess it kind of just said it hook in me, and just intrigued me to the mystery aspect and the whole horror aspect of creepy kids disappearing.
Okay. I suppose I'll go briefly here. You may have gathered, Barbarian didn't really land for me. I've grown to appreciate it more a little bit over time, seeing some other people talk about it. I still don't care for it all that much, but I get why it kind of hit the way it did for enough people. And I'm glad it did for them, not just because I'm glad they enjoyed it. I'm glad it didn't blow up in Cregger's face. I think part of the problem that I had with Barbarian, and is not the movie's fault, but part of the reason it didn't land as well for me is I saw it right around the same time I saw Malignant, which operates on some similar structural premises.
Their posters were virtually identical.
Yeah. And Malignant, I just really enjoyed. And it kind of wildly overshadowed Barbarian in that respect. Which I think also makes sense because James Wan really knows what he's doing. And I'm happy. I said this a few weeks ago. I'm happy to kind of judge first movies a little bit on a curve. Cregger is still figuring himself out as a director. So, yeah, he got a little bit overshadowed there in my head, but what are you going to do? Okay, so with that, with the table being set here, last chance, everybody. If you want to avoid spoilers, here comes the plot synopsis. So we open with, as the narration suggests, a classroom full of kids, all but one, who disappeared. Nobody shows up for school except, again, apart from one kid, Alex. Everyone else is gone. And the police show up, because of course they do, and all the kids ran out of their houses at 2:17 in the morning into the darkness of the night, and nobody knows why. There's some of them that have ring cameras or security cameras around the house that show the kids running, but it's just like a field of vision thing. Like you see them run out. There's no one abducting them. There's no threat. It's just these kids running out. And it's a little unsettling. But
no evidence of a pre-established plan, no emails or texts or letters saying it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. They question the kid Alex about like, well, did they say anything? Was there a movie or TV show that maybe inspired this? Alex says, nope, got nothing.
They question the teacher because of course they do. And the story then jumps forward a month because this is when the story actually begins. So the school's about to reopen because the other kids have to like get back to some degree of normalcy. You still have a school year to complete. So there's a big parents gathering that plays like a really awkward therapy session. And Josh Brolin, God bless him, and I mean that, he's great in this, gets up and says, I want to hear from that because one of his son is one of the kids that's missing. And he gets up and says, I need to hear from the teacher. I need to know what's going on. And this poor teacher, Julia Gardner, Justine, does not have answers. She's as in the dark as everyone else. And everyone gets angry, and there's still a lot of mistrust, and she starts to feel paranoid and stalked, and somebody defaces her car, and she starts drinking heavily, like you do. And also needs to be said about this movie, I'm going to go through this about the way it's presented, but it's presented in a non-linear fashion.
It's apparently Cregger was inspired by Magnolia.
Yeah.
So, which
very, very obviously. It's not quite Pulp Fiction, because Pulp Fiction is not just non-linear, it's really non-linear. Magnolia is kind of get to a certain point, back up, follow another character until they intersect with that point in the story, and then continue on from there. And that's the structure this takes. Whereas Pulp Fiction is just like a bunch of different segments that are cut up and aired out of order, which, to be clear, is fine. Like, Pulp Fiction is a great movie.
Oh, sure.
But just for anyone out there looking for a point of comparison, it's not quite Pulp Fiction. But yeah, Magnolia is a really good point of comparison for this. So she starts having nightmares about Pennywise the Clown or something very close to it. And
I honestly thought it looked like Jinx Monsoon's character in the most recent season of Doctor Who.
I couldn't tell you, so I'll take your word for it. So she starts drinking heavily. She hits up a former friend of hers who's a police officer. And her story briefly ends when hers ends when she's confronted by Josh Brolin at the, if memory serves, I may be misremembering.
Her story, okay, so she starts following Alex, the little boy who was left.
Yeah, she really wants to talk with him because they're the only two survivors of this whole thing. And the principal is like, no, this is inappropriate. And the police are like, don't be stupid. And she tries to talk with him, and Alex is like, don't follow me, crazy lady, as he scurries back to his house. And so she stakes it out, and then there's a couple of creepy scenes. Yeah, then we cut to Gunner.
Yeah, after her story ends after she gets the haircut.
Yeah. Then we cut to Archer.
She does see that Alex's house, something's going on there because all of the windows have newspapers plastered all over them so no one can see into them.
Look,
and
what you do in the privacy of your own legally obtained home is your own business, and I will not stand for this prejudice against those of us who put newspapers on windows and wear tinfoil hats. Anyway.
Yeah, and she can see inside briefly, and she sees two people sitting on the couch, not moving, not budging, even when she makes some noise accidentally. It's like, okay, it's like something here is not adding up.
Yeah, something is definitely not adding up. So then we cut to Archer, who is Josh Brolin's character, and he's taking the disappearance of his son so hard it's starting to destroy his marriage. He's sleeping in his son's bed. He's screwing up at work. He runs a construction company. He's like not putting in orders. He's buying the wrong paint colors. Like he's causing headaches. We find out he's the one who vandalized Justine's car, painting witch on the side of it. He also has a nightmare where he sees his son, talks with him. Son doesn't talk back.
Yeah.
And he starts obsessing about trying to figure out where the kids went. So he looks at his ring cam footage and figures out, okay, kid went out basically in a straight line. So if I follow that line, it goes to here off the map. Finds another one of the kids' families. Says, this is weird, but can I see the footage that you have? He also goes to see the chief of police because he's really invested in the investigation for obvious reasons. The chief of police is like, man, we're doing everything we can. Yes, it's crazy. Go away.
For the record, the chief police is actually pretty friendly about it. He doesn't threaten him. He's like, because he says like, look, I understand because if God forbid it was my kid, I would be doing the same thing as you. But we're working with the state. We're working with the feds. We are literally doing everything we can.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of frustrated people at cross paths is the way it plays out. So he then goes to this other family, says, can I see the footage of your kid leaving the house? And the wife is like, no, weird person. So he waits until the husband gets back, and it's Justin Long. And he asks Justin Long, can I see this real quick? And Justin Long, because he's Justin Long, says, of course, come on in. I'm sure that earned him a night on the couch.
Again, Justin Longo's just happy to be in a horror movie where he doesn't end up dead or disfigured.
Yeah. So he draws a straight line. He's able to use some of his, again, construction and engineering expertise to figure out the straight line that this kid was running down. And if you have two straight lines, you can find an intersecting point more or less. So he finds that on his map, and it's somewhere in this general vicinity. It's not a specific location, but it's a reasonable approximation of a search area. And he decides to start kind of looking around that. And then he sees Justine pull in to get gas in her car, and he goes to confront her because he's still frustrated and angry at her. So they start talking, and then the school principal, Benedict Wong, who did not follow his own advice, apparently, about wizards guard your mind, more on that later, comes Naruto running down from behind them and in a frenzy attacks Justine. He runs over Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin tries to defend her because whatever his issues are, he's not going to watch this crazy blood-soaked maniac kill her in front of him. He's not that kind of a guy. They ultimately are able to stop this because she gets back in her car, and funny scene. They fight through the convenience store attached to the gas station. The attendant does nothing. In fact, as Justine is running away after Brolin body checks Benedict Wong into one of the drink displays, stops both of them for a minute, and Justine starts running out, and she's looking at this guy going, "Help me, call someone, look at this." And all this minimum wage Apu knockoff does is get out of my store. Not even a thank you, come again. He is totally getting written up for that. So she gets in her car and drives off, and Marcus, the principal, chases her. And Josh Brolin gets in his car and chases after them, and Marcus, the principal, gets hit by a car, and his head is crushed and turned into a thin crust pizza, which we get to see because, of course, we do.
So I just got to add this because this is one of the funniest things. Andrew Orozco, frequent collaborator on our show, messaged me on Facebook. Well, he wrote up this on my wall when I went to go see Weapons late last night. He said, "So is there ever an explanation for the Naruto run? Because if you see the teasers and the pictures and the posters and everything, the kids all run out doing the Naruto run with their arms out like this." To which I write, "No, not explained, but strangely enough, it's a plot point."
A little bit, yes. And I have sort of an explanation for it later when we actually get to the review, because it's not in the movie, but there is a reason for it. So then Josh Brolin and...
Oh, we get the cop next. We get the cop, then we get the No, is it the cop, the principal, and the druggie, or is it the cop, the druggie, and then the principal?
I think it's cop, druggie, principal.
No, the druggie's last because that's when everything starts tying together.
Yeah, Alex is actually... Hang on, Alex is last.
Hang on, folks.
Yeah, we're trying to... Okay, no, I got it. Okay. Sort of. Yeah, okay. I think I got it here. So yeah, we got to the cop next because there's some stuff that goes on there. So this is the guy that Justine wound up hooking up with. We found out he is a local police officer.
Recovering alcoholic.
Yeah, recovering alcoholic. His wife is out of town. And we see kind of what led up to him falling off the wagon and then cheating on his wife. In another world, this role is played by Ray Liotta, but we have what's his face here kind of making up for it in the aggregate.
Junior Han Solo.
Yeah.
No, actually, Elden Reich is not a bad actor.
No, he's really not, but he was in Ironheart, so I hope he dies in a fire. Kidding. So he is on patrol. He sees a drug addict who we've seen a couple of times. He's tried to hit up Justine for money, bumming around outside of the liquor store. We'll get back to him in a minute or two. He sees him trying to break into a building. Stop, police. Chases him down, puts him in cuffs, gets all the usual BS from the scumbag. puts on the gloves to pat him down and says, by the way, do you have anything in you that's going to poke me? This is standard operating procedure. If you've never been arrested, if you've never watched Cops or OP Live or anything like that. Do you have anything that's going to poke me? And he goes, no, of course not. I'm not carrying drugs. And as he begins patting down the guy's pockets, he gets stuck with a hypodermic needle. Overcome with frustration and fear of catching some blood-borne ailment from this degenerate scumbag drug addict, he punches him in the face. And under normal circumstances, I don't think anyone would care. But he's in cuffs, and you're on your dash cam. So he's got a problem now. He decides to pick up this poor guy off the ground and goes, okay, buddy, you lied to me, and you got me stuck with this, and now I'm worried about myself. You hit me when I was in cuffs. Yeah, so let's consider this a push. I'm going to take the cuffs off. You go your way, I'll go mine. But if I ever see you again, we're going to have real problems. So this drug addict decides, you know what, that's not a bad deal. So he goes off and now dealing with the stress of having assaulted a suspect in custody and the cover-up, he goes to talk to his boss, who's also his father-in-law, and ain't that a grand coincidence, who says, look, you could be in serious hot water if anything comes of this. If that guy shows up and lodges a complaint, you might be screwed. But if he doesn't, the footage is just on one of our drive databases, and it'll get recorded over because all digital stuff does after a certain period of time. But now he's stressed out and annoyed with himself, and he and his wife are trying to get pregnant, and apparently it's been kind of an issue for them. So he takes Justine up on a text offer, falls off the wagon, goes to sleep with her, goes back home. His wife is back early from her trip, because of course she is, and looks at him and goes, oh, what did you do? So now he's fighting with his wife, and his father-in-law is not pleased with him. And he goes back to work, and who does he see walking towards the police station as he arrives? But the same junkie who he dealt with earlier, and he then chases off after him in his car, and that's where we cut that story.
No, he catches him, and then because the junkie had said that he knows where the kids are.
We don't get that part of it until the junkie's story. The cop story cuts off as he's chasing him. It's a weird point to cut it, but that's where they did. So then we briefly get the principal, Marcus. And Marcus is a poor guy, just trying to be a good school administrator. We've seen him a few times off and on throughout this, and what comes about this is we get a flashback to a conversation he had with Justine, who had called him and said, look, I went to Alex's house. He's like, you're breaking all the professional protocols. You're a loose cannon. You're on suspension. Sorry. Don't do this. He's like, look, just talk to the parents. Something weird's going on over there. Just please go over there, talk to the parents. You'll see I'm not crazy. And he goes, look, how about I get the parents into my office for a sit down before I have to try and involve Child Protective Services, because that's a giant headache. And she goes, yeah, that seems reasonable, because they do act reasonable in this movie.
I was going to say, there's very few characters who do the, what do we usually call it? It's like, do stupid things just because it's a horror movie and somebody needs to do a stupid thing. We actually have very few characters who do that.
Yeah. Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot to mention. The plot with Josh Brolin cuts off in the middle of the principal's attack. We don't get the whole thing there. We get the whole thing at the end of what happens with Marcus, because Marcus calls in the parents. The parents don't show up. Instead, an aunt shows up. This is Gladys. She's kind of important.
And she is the Pennywise-looking person that we have been seeing pop up in the dreams of some of the other characters.
We actually do see her briefly, believe it or not, during an earlier sequence. Very briefly, mostly obscured, and we don't see the top of her body, but she's there. So Gladys shows up and goes, look, I'm the aunt. I'm the older sister of Alex's mom. They're ill. They're at home. They sent me instead. I'm here. What can I do for you? And the principal goes, Look, normally I could maybe do something with this, with you being here, but there's been some concern about Alex. I need to speak to his legal guardians, or the authorities have to get involved. And she goes, well, they're just sick, a touch of the consumption.
That line killed me. I was just like, of all the fucking illnesses you could pull out of your ass, you said consumption.
It's a terrifying indicator of just how long Gladys has been around, for the record. For those of you who don't know, consumption is an antiquated term for tuberculosis. That's what they used to call it back in like the 1800s, because if you got it, you wasted away, it consumed you. And if you've never seen someone actually die of tuberculosis, that's exactly what it looks like. It is terrible.
It's what killed, I want to say, 2 or 3 of Edgar Allan Poe's wives. Basically, your lungs fill up with blood and you drown in your own blood.
Yeah, you start losing lung tissue. Doc Holliday died of this, if you need another example.
Mm-hmm.
Killed a lot of people. Wong's response that I thought that was something you got in the Oregon Trail, which is a thing. Not quite as often as dying of dysentery, but you could die of consumption. Anyway, she then shows up at his house, which is weird, where Marcus and his husband are just trying to have a nice Saturday. But she kind of bullies her way in and then reveals she's kind of a witch. Not metaphorically. She gets something of Wong's. She then cuts herself, smears blood all over a stick, wraps some hair from his husband around it, and breaks the stick. And this gets Wong to attack his husband and headbutt him to death, which is a bad way to go. Very poor headbutts, by the way, but, headbutt technique is a lost art. She then sends him after Justine. We follow his run until he gets to her. We see the rest of that fight, because, again, the actual one with Archer cuts off midway through the encounter. Then we get to where he dies. And then we briefly get sort of the meeting of the minds of Archer and Justine, where they figure out what's going on, because Archer has looked at enough of the footage that the way he saw Marcus running was like, that's the same way the kids were running.
Like I said, Naruto run, plot point.
Something was going on there. And he says, look, I kind of figured out they went in mostly a straight line. It gives me about this area. And Justine looks at it and goes, oh, Alex lives there. It's in your area. So they go there to start staking that out.
Oh, shit. Where was the junkies story in all of this?
After that, because we get to them getting to that point, then we cut to the junkie. And if Mark were here, I have a couple of pro wrestling references I'd make for this guy. Because, boy howdy. So this is the junkie. We've seen him pop up in a few different places. And we see his first encounter with the police officer. Then we pick up from there. More or less. Like, we see the backstory that leads up to that. It's not super relevant, but we do see it. Then we see what happens to him after he gets out of the handcuffs and doesn't file a lawsuit and a complaint against the city. He goes back to being a scumbag. He starts looking for a place to break into, because this is what scumbags do. He sees Alex's house, because there's a bunch of newspapers piled up on the driveway. And if you're a scumbag looking for a place to break into, you look for a place that has a lot of newspapers or mail that hasn't been picked up. It's an indicator that no one's home.
So this is why, if you still have newspapers delivered, which I know is a rare occasion nowadays, or your mail is delivered to your front porch, you ask your neighbors or a friend to pick that stuff up for you, because that is a giant red flag for home intruders.
Or you temporarily suspend delivery for mail if you feel so inclined. The post office will usually accommodate that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he goes to this house, he wanders around, he climbs in through an upstairs window, he gets a pillowcase, he starts filling it up with crap. He then encounters parents sitting on the sofa, not moving, barely blinking. And he's a little weirded out, but not so weirded out that he stops ransacking the place, because burglary. He steals a bunch of silverware, and he winds up going into the basement. Who knows why? He also gives us one of the funniest lines out of this whole thing when he's looking through the DVD collection and he goes, "Oh, fucking Willow." Because they have Willow on DVD. He then, in the basement, sees the missing kids standing eerily still. But they turn and look at him, and he freaks out, and he runs out of the place. And he's a little bit freaked out. Goes to the not freaked out enough to, do the right thing. He still goes to the pawn shop and sells his ill-gotten goods. But while there, he sees a reward poster. You see, there's a reward for information leading to the return of the kids, 50 grand. And he's like, "Hey, I know where those kids are." He recognizes a few of the pictures. So he calls and he says, "Hey, I know where those kids are. Can I come get my money now?" Because he's a character from The Wire.
Yeah, it's literally, "I don't like police stations. Can you have someone meet me?"
I got a phobia. Can I meet you somewhere and collect my money? Yeah. No. So that's why he's walking up to the police station as this disgruntled, frustrated, angry police officer is coming out and sees him. And he then chases him, runs him down, gets him in handcuffs, and the guy and the junkie goes, "Dude, I know where the kids are. That's what I was there for. I promise I wasn't here to cause you any trouble." And he goes, "Fine, where are they?" "Yeah, I can take you there." So he directs him to the house. You're like, "Okay." So we going in, and you're like, "No, I'm going in. You're staying here." Person in handcuffs who is not trustworthy at all after you stabbed me in the face with more needles, which happened during the chase. And so the cop goes in, the door opens creepily, he goes in, and then he is gone for like the day. He comes in at night.
It's light. It's light out when they go to the house. It's dark when we cut back. It's literally just a cut, and the junkie is still in the back seat of the car going like, "Let me out, let me out." Wire. Yeah. It's like he is just going nuts, stuck in the back seat of this freaking car.
Then the police officer comes angry walking out of the house, drags the junkie inside, and then we cut to Alex. And this is where we figure out the totality of what's happened to this point. Alex is the only kid who didn't disappear on that night. And we cut back to see a little bit of his schooling. He's a nice, quiet kid, kind of picked on by Archer's kid Matthew, because Archer's kid Matthew is one of those kids who's kind of a jerk. But it's third grade. Most of them are little sociopaths. Which is just my way of saying I don't hold too much against the kid.
Third grade was when I finally started seeing like bullies in school. So yeah, you're not wrong.
That's when you decide whether or not you're going to be that's when you start down the path of being a functional member of society and a civilized human being and force in the world, or the other. Don't be the other. Anyway, we see that his Aunt Gladys, is supposed to be coming there. She's ill and doesn't have anywhere else to go. And she shows up, and that's the Gladys character that we've come to know a little bit at this point. Now, there's an open question whether or not this is actually his Aunt Gladys, or if this is just someone posing as her to gain access to the family. But again, open question. I tend to think it's not actually his aunt, but that's just me. So she's there. She's old. She's got wigs because the story is, end of life cancer is my hunch. But again, the story. And then he wakes up one day, comes downstairs, and his parents are just sitting at the table. Not really responding. Zombie-like, if you will. He's a little freaked out by this, as one would be. And this is after, by the way, he goes to school and nobody comes to pick him up. So he walks all the way home and finds them there. And Gladys demonstrates her magic powers for the kid and gets them to stab themselves repeatedly in the face with forks. John Moxley calls that an average Wednesday. I'm done with my wrestling references now, I promise.
That was the moment that freaked me out the most. I hate to say it. That was the moment that I actually just freaked out so much.
So she stops them after they've stabbed themselves repeatedly and says, I can make them do that again. You just saw me do it. I can make them hurt themselves. I can make them hurt each other. I can make them eat each other if I want. I can make them hurt you. So, you're going to promise me that you don't tell anybody I'm here, or bad things will happen, and I'll know if you break your promise. And probably a lie, but she's magic, so kid's not going to risk it. So he goes about life, and it's bad. He feeds his parents soup while they sit at the table. I imagine he has a lot of messes to clean up. Movie doesn't go there, but my mind. And he then talks with his aunt at one point, going, why are you here? Who are you? And she goes, well, I'm old, and I've been sick for a really long time. Consumption reference, remember? And I thought being here with your parents would help. But maybe not. Maybe I'm just kind of stuck here. Thought this would work faster. And he goes, well, if you get better, will you go away? Because he's a kid. And she goes, boy, you're stupid. Sure. You got any ideas? You got a lot of classmates, don't you? Maybe them being here would be really helpful. Bring me something of each of theirs, and we'll just see what happens. So he collects all of the name tags from their cubbies in his classroom. Then we get to the night when she summons them all to the house. She drags them all to the basement, leaves them there. Now this poor 8-year-old is trying to feed gallons of chicken noodle soup to his parents and all these kids. And he's starting to come apart at the seams a little bit. Gladys is starting to get healthier, if you pay attention to those kinds of things. Her hair starts growing back in. Stuff like that. So her draining the life energy of those under her life draining spell is working. But there's some complications. First, there's the principal. And then there's the cop that shows up. And after the cop and the junkies show up and she gets them under her spell, she says to Alex, yeah, pack your stuff. We're leaving tomorrow. They've been able to hide this for a while, but things are starting to come apart. And as he's under this direction, and she sets up some protective barriers and says, don't cross the salt lines. If you know anything about magic, you know that's generally good advice. But she says, don't do that. Just get ready. And then, right about then, Archer and Justine arrive. And they're like, okay, so the cop's here because the cop car's out front. So what do? Do we go knock? Do we call more cops? What do we do here? Because they don't know what they're doing. And right about then, the front door opens and the cop, who Justine knows, comes out and creepily waves them in. Nothing odd about that. Then like, okay, let's go. So the two of them go inside. And the cop kind of coaxes Justine to step over the salt line, which triggers him to attack her and the junkie to attack Josh Brolin. We get a big fight. Josh Brolin hits that guy like a whack-a-mole. For fart, I laughed. About the fourth time, I genuinely laughed in the theater.
Yeah.
This is the comedic take.
Yeah, this is where some of the humor comes in on this movie.
There is some, for sure. Around the same time, upstairs, Alex has realized this is not going to end well, because he's not that stupid. So he steps over the salt line that gets his parents to attack him. He leads them a slight merry chase, gets back around to Gladys's spell room where she's doing things, but she's not there at the moment, grabs her spell materials, gets some of Gladys's hair, winds it around the stick that is attached to all the kids. Now, around the same time, Justine and Archer fight off those two. They both get shot. The two zombies get shot in the head, because you have to kill a zombie with a headshot. So they're down. Archer goes to the basement where he finds the kids, and he gets put under a spell by her as well. He then starts choking out Justine with actually a pretty decent rear naked choke, all things considered. It's a palm-to-palm grip, not a full figure four, but I only bring that up because she's in that for a while, and would have ended a lot worse for her, all things considered. But because Gladys is down observing Josh Brolin strangle the Silver Surfer, not Silver Surfer, Alex is able to complete this spell, breaks the stick. Yeah, you really do want the hooks in. With that much size disparity, it's not quite as necessary, but you really do. It's more he's got this grip instead of this grip.
Let's go.
He brought it up. It was brought up by one of our viewers. That's why I extrapolated.
We're 51 minutes in and we still haven't got to the synopsis.
Almost done. So he completes this spell and sicks all 17 of these kids on Gladys. Thus, we get the weirdest iteration of Ferris Bueller's Last Run to his house, where they run out windows to chase Gladys. Gladys runs through a few houses, a few backyards. Some guy mowing his lawn watches this old lady run between backyards and is then followed by a passel of kids.
Screaming.
I don't even know what I'd do. Like, I can't. This is one of those instances where you kind of want to be like, people react. How are they not reacting? But the freeze reaction is what most people do when confronted with something alien to them. Eventually, the kids do catch up to her, drag her to the ground, and like a pack of little hyenas, tear her apart just in time to prevent serious brain damage from being done to Justine by Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin then shakes himself awake, makes sure she's okay, follows the trail of destruction, freaks out the family as he walks through, because nobody reacts badly to the old woman, but the Josh Brolin walking through they freak out about.
No, they're freaking out about all the broken glass on the floor. Like these kids, it's
like the zombies from World War Z, just bam. Through anything.
It's like doors broken, windows broken.
So Justine goes up. She sees that Alex is hugging his parents, and like, okay, we're okay here. Josh Brolin finds his son, carries him off, and we get the closing narration from the same creepy kid who's never identified, who does the opening narration. Says, yeah,
it's
all the kids were Alex's parents are still catatonic, and someone else feeds them soup now, but not him. He's with, I think they said, another aunt, a nice one,
like I've heard she's good. Yeah, something like that.
And all the kids were reunited with their families. Some of them even started to talk again this year. On that chilling note, Weapons comes to a conclusion. So I've talked a lot there. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit. Jayson, why don't you kick us off?
After 53 minutes of a plot synopsis, let's go. So,
35. I started at 12 minutes, so 35 minutes. Thank you very much.
Way too long. But this movie is eerily creepy. And the creepiest part is the ending. And it says some of the kids, and the kids never came back. That is the most chilling part of this movie. It's because physically the children were there. Mentally, they're gone. They're never going to be the same. Also, you missed a very big thing. She brings a tree that she gets a magical tree. She brings it in, and you see her carrying it in at the beginning, and that's where she gets the bonds branches that she bonds things together, which is a subtle thing that you kind of miss. It's kind of a blink and you miss it, but because you keep wondering why she keeps bringing where she keeps getting these twigs from, these bonding branches and everything. But it's actually a tree that she brought in from the house that she is, some kind of magical tree that gives her the power of Grayskull or something or along those lines.
If you buy into that level of like witchcraft, you need specific wood. It is meant to carry more specific properties. So whatever she's got there is a specific kind of. You can't use balsa wood from the hardware store for this. Right.
You can't go down. You can't go down to Daniel's son's Mazda and get a bonsai tree.
Yeah.
But this movie is creepy on so many levels. One is the levels of the kids just being catatonic and going through this thing. And it's something that I posed while we was watching the movie. I said, how are you going to explain a circle of kids covered in blood who dismembered an old lady on somebody's front lawn? Because that in itself is something that you're going to have to explain. I mean, there's these kids disappeared, they've been gone a month, and all of a sudden they reappear and they have disemboweled and totally annihilated an old lady on somebody's front lawn that nobody knew existed. Because the only person that even knew of this lady was the secretary at the school and the principal. That's it.
Well, the cops knew. She was there for the questioning of. This is why we actually do see her very early. Because when they do the scene with Alex being questioned by the cops when they put the Coke in front of him, we assume it's his mom and dad that are with him. His dad is there. That's not his mom. That's Gladys.
Oh, I never noticed that. I didn't notice that. So, yeah, I mean, and these kids are catatonic, and it says that some of them even are speaking this year. And you just, and it ties into the name of the movie, Weapons. Because these children were basically, she was creating weapons to take out people that basically opposed her and threatened her little Ponzi scheme of sucking life force out of everybody. And then the children was weaponized against her. And it's something that I read online, and it's really, really intrigued me because a lot of times you see movies that the title goes into and plays into the movie itself. And then, but when you step back and you just initially think of it, you're like, how does this turn in? And then you start thinking that she was weaponizing people to do her bidding and make sure that her spell succeeded. And that is really fun and interesting and creepy, and kids are creepy. And the fact that, we had the Train to Busan look from the principal as he ran out, as he attacked Justine. Yeah, see, I'll pull a deep cut every now and then, like last week with Basket Case. But yeah, I mean, this movie it's an intellectual horror movie in my opinion, because you have to peel back the layers sometimes. And initially you don't see the whole picture, but when you start sitting down to think of it, you start seeing the layers peel back and start understanding it more, which is phenomenal.
All right, Alexis?
It is. I agree with Jason about the idea of why it's called Weapons. Because watching it, I was like, I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, well, why is it called Weapons? And you realize it's because Gladys is making the people around her into weapons. And it's so... Okay, yes. Our viewer here says, do I need to see it in a cinema? Yes, you do. Do not wait for this to come out on streaming. Go see it in a theater.
Not so much for the visuals. There's a few nice things there, but there's a lot of stuff done with the sound in this movie that really benefits from the surround sound theatrical experience.
Not to mention, and we're going to talk more about this later on in the show, but this is a movie that we need to see in cinemas because we need to make sure Hollywood knows these are the kind of movies we want to see on the big screen. Yeah. It's like Jay Sherman once said, if the movie stinks, just don't go. The opposite is true. If the movie's excellent, go. That's what we got to send that message to Hollywood. One of the things I found fascinating about this film is the way it starts a month after this has happened. So many films that would try to do something like this, we'd spend a lot of time getting to know Justine and Archer and Alex and maybe the junkie and the cop and the principal. This one throws us into the thick of it, and yet the character development is so natural. It's really good. Nothing feels forced. You learn about Justine that she is a recovering alcoholic who's pretty much fallen off the wagon. You learn that
she has a problem with alcohol. Whether or not she's ever actually addressed it remains.
Alcoholics go to meetings, drunks do not.
Yeah,
She is
she's a
drunk.
bit more
Yeah.
on the fact that the first thing she does after that meeting we see her in is go to the liquor store and buy 2 bottles of vodka. One, I would have been like, maybe. 2, you got a problem.
Yeah, and it's just straight vodka. It's not even like I mean, I would have almost
Her
bought
plan
it.
is to cut it with water. There's not even a mix.
Connie. Yeah, no, it's club. She misses it with club soda.
Still.
But and then yeah, we have the scene of her sitting in the car just adding it to a drink
Big
cup
gulp.
from a fast food place. The scares in this were fantastic. We talked in together about scenes, whether or not that actually, legit freaked us out or jump scared us or anything like that. And I know we've talked about, the overuse of jump scares and how so many directors use it as a crutch and don't actually put any work into it. It's just like, no, that's just something to get the audience's adrenaline going. But a jump scare, when utilized well, is still a very effective tool for a good horror movie. This has some really good jump scares. So many scenes legit had me freaking out. The scenes with the principal attacking, the way his eyes are bugging out of his head.
Yeah, he's got the bulge going there.
The first time I saw him with the eyes bulging when he's attacking Justine and Archer, before you find out that his face is all bloody because he just headbutted his husband to death, I thought he had like scratched his face and scratched his eyelids off. I was like, there is no way his eyes should be that huge and that coming out of his skull. It is terrifying. The scene of Gladys making the parents stab themselves in the face with the fork. I'm not kidding. I wouldn't let us. Oh my God. My husband looked at me and said, you just squeaked. I'm like, yeah, I didn't squeak. I squeaked because I got really scared by that. And you get really caught up in these people's stories. You find yourself worried for what's going to happen. When you see Gladys torturing the parents and you see Alex crying and how terrified he is of what's going to happen to his parents, you feel for them. You want them to get through this. This isn't a horror movie where it's like, okay, where's the cannon fodder? Where's the red shirts? Let's go have some fun killing everyone. How many movies have we watched where it's like, oh, I can't wait for that person to die. There is no one in this, aside from Gladys, of course, there's no one in this movie that you're just like, they're going to die and it's going to be funny. You really care about all these characters. Josh Brolin, you weren't kidding. I've often joked he's one of those actors that just, you add him and he just makes everything better. And he is so good in this. Again, he could, in the wrong hands, he could have come across as just crazy annoying, but you feel his pain. His son is missing and he's looking for something, anything.
Not to lean into the meme, but because this is not a meme, this is apparently legitimate. Originally, that role was going to be Pedro Pascal before scheduling conflict with Fantastic Four.
I've seen that too.
I think Pascal would have been good in this role as well, but Brolin was phenomenal.
If he was Pedro Pascal, I would have been cheering for him to die. I'm not a big fan of Pedro Pascal. That doesn't mean there's nothing he can do well. I don't think this role would have suited him at all. I think there's something about the way he acts that this would have come off wrong, not sympathetic. Brolin is able to inject a tremendous amount of humanity into this character that could be, put it this way, I think if Pascal had been in charge of this character, it would have come across a lot more like textbook toxic masculinity, because that's the thing he likes to do with this kind of thing. And I think Brolin intelligently, between him and the director, no, that doesn't mean the guy's a superhero. He's clearly flawed, but that doesn't mean he's just his flaws. And Brolin gets at the heart of this guy very, very well. The scene, it's in his dream when he's talking to his kid and he can't quite bring himself to say, I love you, is genuinely a little bit heartbreaking. He loves his son, he feels it, but verbalizing it can be hard. And
You repeatedly hear him say to Matthew at the end when he rescues him, he finds him, he says, "I failed you." You get the idea that he has done a lot of reflecting on his parenting style and realized he probably has made more than a few mistakes. He also gives the absolute greatest WTF read when he wakes up from that dream. Just that the way he's laying in bed, screams, "What the fuck?" That was just so
Well, and the fact that you see Gladys in his dream, because she is who rolls over in the bed when he's dreaming, and he thinks it's his son and stuff, and his son, and the blanket's over, and then it reveals that it's actually Gladys rolling over in the bed to look at him. And that was something that I picked up on that was really creepy. And because she's almost like a disfigured clown because of her makeup and stuff. And it's really disturbing. And it's a jump scare.
She's got like old world Hollywood, whatever happened to Baby Jane makeup on it. That if you've never seen that movie.
I'm trying to remember. It reminds me of it's a Disney movie about witches. They just remade it not long ago, and the remake totally sucked, but the original was really good.
The Witches?
Was it The Witches?
That wasn't Disney. That was a Roald Dahl film.
No, I don't think it's. I'm trying to think.
It wasn't Hocus Pocus, right?
No, it was like they're in a ball and there's a mouse. I can't think what it might be. The Witches. I'm not really
that is
sure.
The Witches.
Oh, that is
where he gets turned into a mouse at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one lady in the red of that movie really reminded me of Gladys, and that really was a deep cut callback because that's where a lot of this stuff was pulled from. Was the early Hollywood interpretation of witches and how they would be disfigured and haggard and everything.
There's also, I feel, a comparison to be made about dealing with tragedy. In a way, you could very much so compare this to how a community reacts to school shootings and the loss of children.
A lot of people have, hang on, a lot of people have brought that up. Somebody brought it up to Cregger, believe it or not, and he flatly rejected that interpretation.
Yeah, there's no reason to try to push a political agenda in this.
Well, hang on.
It has nothing to do with school shooting, and anybody that thinks that.
Oh, I'm not talking about political, about how we end. I'm not talking about gun control. I'm talking about trauma and how a community reacts, especially the fact that by killing Gladys, not everything goes back to the way it was. They don't explain it, but I'm going to assume the longer you're under her spell, the harder it is to get back to normal. This is why Archer is only under it for maybe 5 minutes, and he comes out going like, "Oh, okay, fine, I'm going to go look for my son." But the kids have trouble recovering, and Alex's parents are now institutionalized. They've been under this spell for a month.
But the community didn't rally around them. That's the thing. They did a memorial out front, and the thing before the night of school is just the parents of the kids that are missing. It wasn't the whole school. It was just the parents of the kids missing.
No, that was the whole class. It wasn't just the
No, it states that it was just the parents for the missing kids.
Yeah. Again,
it states it in the movie.
Okay, I may be misremembering.
Again, that's just sort of the way I see a little bit of the interpretation. You don't have to say it's about the necessity of gun control or anything like that. But I do see a parallel because, again, it's the idea that even if you solve the problem, it's not going to automatically fix everything. The kids do not just suddenly wake up. It's like, "Oh, Daddy, I had the most terrible dream." And Alex's parents are, like I said, they're freaking institutionalized. They've gone the way of Neville Longbottom's parents. And
I knew you were going to reference that. I had somewhere I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's where she's going," because you're a Harry Potter fan, so.
I was like me waiting in the Superman review from making the best of times. It was the blurst of times review. You saw me in bed react. I was like, "Yes, knew it."
Stupid
but But that's just the way I kind of see it, that there is something to be read into that. Whether or not Cregger intended that, you guys know me. I am a big fan of art that can be taken in many different ways. I like the idea of looking at something, be it a movie, a painting, a poem, a book, and there's a lot of layers to it that you can peel back, and one person can see one thing and another person can see something totally different. If you don't see that in this movie, that's fine. It's not like you don't get it, you idiot. That's just how someone may compare it. And again, this is a legitimately scary movie. There were so many moments that freaked me out. There were so many moments that I remember thinking, how are they going to get out of this? How is this going to resolve? I was worried for Alex. I was worried for his parents.
I just hoped everybody died, because that would have been the best outcome of ever. I wish it would have had an ending. I wish it would have had an ending on the level of The Mist, where you have that tragedy, but did it so awesome because you realize he had to kill his family and everybody else lived if he would have just waited 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's an argument about that, but
I love The Mist.
There's sort of
one of the best endings in a movie ever.
It's about the way it's presented. Like, there's a slight, because of the way the ending of The Mist is presented in film form, there's a way you can read that sort of that is, yeah, when you sacrificed the kid like the crazy religious lady wanted you to, the mist went away. Just a thought.
We all know The Mist was a prequel to The Walking Dead. Anybody that gets that reference, you're welcome.
Fair enough.
Frank Darabont says the check's in the mail.
Yeah, him and Paul Heyman. Anyway. Anything else, Alexis?
Well, again, we're going to talk more about horror movies in 2025 in general here in a little bit, so I don't want to, lead into that too much. But seriously, guys, we had one of our viewers ask if this was something that you should see in a cinema. Yes, 100 times yes. This is one of those movies you really, really need to go see in the theater. Do not wait for it on streaming.
If you're going to see it a second time, make sure you see it with a bunch of other people. And at about the halfway mark, get up and run out with your arms straight at your sides and just watch what happens.
That actually did happen. That happened in some major theater. A bunch of friends went to a sold out show, and they all sat in different areas of the theater. And about halfway through, when she rang the bell. When the principal, when they all got up and did that and ran out of the theater, and they said people were in there complaining to the managers what happened and stuff, wanted refunds because they thought that it was really affecting people in the theater. Yeah, it was a pretty good prank.
Manager's sitting there probably going, well, at least they're not bringing chickens into the theater like they did for Minecraft.
Ain't that the truth? I really enjoyed this movie, if that wasn't obvious already.
Yeah.
This is really well done on pretty much every level. And there's a few things going on here that I'd like to point out. We already praised Josh Brolin, who makes everything better. I'm going to give some praise to Julia Gardner, who I've kind of been down on as a general rule, but she's good here. She goes through a lot of stuff. She starts off as this kind of mousy victim, becomes an incorrigible drunk, and then finds her inner courage by the end of it. It's a really nice arc, and she does it really well at every step.
And she plays that beaten down, distraught, and female wonderfully. I mean, and the range that she actually got to show in this was very applaudable.
Mm-hmm.
Benedict Wong gets to be scary, and that's a new thing for him, and he's really good at it, so thumbs up there. I don't do this very often because rarely is it all that relevant, but the child actor who plays Alex is really good.
Yeah.
It's so hard to be a sympathetic child actor if we have to spend time with you. We have to spend time with Alex, and he does a great job with this character. So big thumbs up to him.
Yeah, trauma is not the easiest thing for anyone to act, and especially younger kids. I mean, especially because when we try to act trauma, we try to think back on, what has traumatized us. Hopefully, little kids don't have something like that to draw back on. But yeah, again, the scenes of him yelling at Gladys to get her to stop having his parents hurt him, trying to bargain with her, just like, if I help you, you'll leave, right?
This poor little 8-year-old or whatever trying to make a deal with the devil. It
works.
He figures it out eventually, but man. To that end, the actress who plays Gladys is suitably creepy. Not just in the pantomime horror villain creepy, but when she's scarier when she's not doing that, when she's just being human and a domineering, manipulative, malevolent force. It's creepy, and kudos to her for it. She does a really good job.
Apparently, the actress who played Gladys, Amy Madigan, she has been a major actor for years. She's gotten nominations for Oscars and Emmys. She's got a Golden Globe Award. Been married to Ed Harris since 1983. She was in a ton of movies in the 80s. Alamo Bay, Nowhere to Hide, Uncle Buck, Field of Dreams, With Friends Like These, Gone Baby. She's done a lot of stuff.
She is the mom and wife in Field of Dreams. Now that I think about it, her face, I can see it. Her face, yeah. That's creepy.
Annie Kinsella. Is that the character's name in Field of Dreams?
Kevin Costner's wife. Yeah, his character's wife.
Yeah, no, she has been in so much stuff, and she still looks relatively good. So credit to the makeup for croning her up the way they did.
They age her up a lot to begin with, and then slowly draw it back. Yeah, they do a really good job there. The gore in this movie is good. It's spaced out, so it actually has impact when it hits. So thumbs up for that. Understanding restraint and where something needs to be applied for a maximum effect. The writing of this is very reminiscent of certain Stephen King books in a couple of ways. One, strong characterization, because that's really what Stephen King does best, is believable, understandable characters and the verisimilitude of the world. This one has very strong characters. So that, and if you've read certain King novels, he will do this thing where he gives you this bigger picture of everything that's going on. There's big sections of it where he just talks about the town and the history and what's going on. The entire opening bit of The Stand is basically one of these, because it's the end of the world and then the immediate aftermath of the end of the world. So he gives you this big, broad look. So taking this sort of hodgepodge stitched together story does give me very King vibes. Plus, this is a very Stephen King kind of horror story. How did I hear this phrased? I forget who said it. But if you look at some of the film editing, especially earlier in this one, there's a punchiness to the editing that's reminiscent of Scorsese. A lot of the cinematography is reminiscent of Spielberg. Cregger doesn't quite have Spielberg's flair with camera motion, but, who does?
There is some really good blocking and editing, especially the scene in particular with the cop chasing after the junkie. Was done really well.
So as far as, again, potential interpretations of this, Cregger's intent, and again, how much you choose to care for the authorial intent, I will leave up to you. He viewed this as his unpacking and treatise on alcoholism. Gladys is kind of the stand-in for what it does. It sucks the life out of you. It damages you. It parentifies the kid to take care of his parents. And again, that theme is also there with some of the other characters. Justine's alcoholism, the cop trying to get into recovery and falling off the wagon. Like you see it throughout because that's kind of what he's looking at. That's his intent when he's unpacking it. Again, how much you choose that, I leave up to you as an individual. I did find it amusing that a lot of the non-American reviewers did kind of went to the school shooting thing right away. Like, come on, guys, just because it features horror in a school, that's not the only thing that goes on. That's not the only horrible thing that goes on in schools. Frankly, depending on where you are, just existing in a high school is more than enough.
Oh yeah.
Very true. There was also a lot of leaning into the idea of parasites, which I thought was really clever symbolism. We see that Justine's class is studying parasites. I'm assuming they're just studying like biological relationships, like a symbiosis and stuff. Because I remember studying that.
There's symbiotic, parasitic, and I can never remember the third, which is beneficial to one but not harmful to the other.
Mm-hmm. And you see Marcus, the principal, and his husband are watching a documentary on how does it pronounce, cordyceps?
I think it is. It's somewhat famous. It's the parasite that takes over ants, gets them to climb to the top of a tree, where they die. Then a bird, or where they hang out until a bird eats them, because the next part of the life cycle of this creature is triggered by being excreted through birds. So
what you're saying is this is the preamble to Last of Us.
Last of Us
could be, yes.
And cordyceps is the fungus in The Last of Us. It's it's just finally developed that it can take over humans.
And this is another reason I'm glad Pedro Pascal wasn't in it. I didn't need that comparison being made even as a joke.
Very true.
So this is one of my favorite movies all year. It's incredibly well written. You might I saw the runtime and I was a little bit leery because 2 hours feels like a bit of a stretch for this. In execution, it doesn't really feel like a 2-hour movie. It mostly nails that, so thumbs up there. Yeah, this is absolutely going to be in my top 10 by the time it's all said and done. How close to the top? Well, we'll wait and see what else comes out between now and then, but
right now this is in my top 5. If it gets knocked out of that and into 6 to 10, because I have no doubt that this is going to be in my top 10. If it doesn't stay in the top 5 by the end of the year, I will be surprised and also relieved that we're getting that many good movies. But seriously, this is such a good film. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easily top 10 for me. I mean, I really, there's not a lot of movies I'm looking forward to that will bump this anywhere out of my top 10. There's some movies I'm looking forward to, but I don't think that any of them is going to be able to. I don't think enough of them is going to be enjoyable for this to bump out of my top 10.
Yeah, this is frankly, I think probably my top 3 at the moment. But my status on this is I don't order them until I get like near the end when I have to order them. I just have my list. And this is on my list. So where it winds up remains to be seen, but probably quite high. And I think that's all of our craft review. So we're going to talk briefly about the money, mostly so we can use the jingle and segue into it. Then the bulk of our discussion over there is actually going to be on a slightly different topic. So let's get to the money real quick so we can talk about what horror has been doing for the studio and theatrical process all year.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Okay. Weapons was the #1 movie of the weekend, believe it or not, beating out Freakier Friday, which was its debut competition, and shoving Fantastic Four First Steps down to 3rd. It debuted with $42 million, give or take, which is a really strong opening especially for an indie horror film.
It's got a budget of $38 million, currently sitting at a box office of $81.3 million.
By the time we've gotten to where we are now. So again, the 40 was domestic, worldwide. Yeah, it's for the budget. This is definitely a hit already. And yeah, I'm very happy about that. And to that end, that's kind of where we're going to leave that. Worldwide, nothing's really changed. Listen to the money segment from yesterday when Mark and I go into it, because we talk about that a little bit.
After you listen to them suffer through talking about War of the World.
Yeah. It's bad. Don't watch it. Anyway.
Sorry, it's just so rarely I get to hear you with that level of just despondence in your voice. It's just every now and then it's like you're like, yeah, it's like kind of annoyed, but no, it's like, no, that was shoot me level of hatred. Just dripping.
That movie damaged me almost as much as the Cheaper by the Dozen remake.
Better or worse than Snow White?
Technically, I think worse, but I'm not sure.
Just asking, because when Mark has you do the worst of 2025, that question's going to come up.
It's a 2-horse race between those two, and we're going to see when I get to it. Yeah, and famously, the Cheaper by the Dozen remake was so like damaging to my artistic and creative side that in order to reconnect with what was real, I watched World War II documentaries for a few hours to just feel like a human again and reconnect with all that. Anyway. So instead, we figured instead of talking about the money again, the horror movie scene has been kind of a boon to most of the major studios this year. We've had 2 major horror releases that opened very, very strongly north of 40 million, this and Sinners. We've had a few other horror releases that have been good little moneymakers. Like the dirty secret of Hollywood is that horror is the fuel that turns that machinery. And that's become a bit of a point of, it's been brought to the fore this last little bit this year when all the major movies have been underperforming. And I'm not here to relitigate Superman or Fantastic Four or any of those because Mark and I did that. Suffice to say, underperforming. And please, let's not argue about that anymore. If you want to hear Mark and I yell at all of you people for being stupid about this, listen to yesterday's podcast. We devote a chunk of time to that because Mark said it on TikTok, because it's true. And he got a lot of pushback like, no, Superman's doing fine. Like, guys, you enjoyed it. Fair enough. Plenty to enjoy. Oh, but they're already greenlit a sequel. No one's saying they're going to about face yesterday. We're saying it's underperforming. It's not going to hit 700 million worldwide. That's an underperformance for it. I deserve that. Fair enough. But a lot of the horror movies have actually been overperforming, and we're going to kick that around a little bit. So to the tune of overperforming horror movies, we've had Sinners, which had a surprising amount of legs. Like, that stuck around for a while. 28 years later, definitely did a solid enough job, especially because they shot that and its sequel back to back, and that's coming out next year. Together was doing okay, and definitely got some critical acclaim. And I mean, you had a whole list, Alexis, so chime in.
Yeah, this year alone. Okay, so Sinners, 28 years later, Final Destination 6? Bloodlines. I was just trying to remember what number it was. I think it is technically 6.
Probably. I think the final was 5, and that was the loop.
Yeah. Together, I know Companion technically was listed under the horror genre, even though I think we agreed that it's not really horror.
It's not at all messy horror, but I think it does fall into the horror category.
Yeah, it's more suspense than anything but technically suspense is a subcategory of horror, so we'll let it slide. And even leaning
either way on that one, but.
And even leaning into that from 2024, we had Nosferatu and The Substance. We have seen a massive wave of horror, and yeah, we listed off a couple of them were sequels, but more to the point, we have seen a massive wave of original good horror. We have seen original stories, not just milking franchises, not just Terrifier 4, which I mentioned in the group chat, has been greenlit. It's going to start filming before too long.
Good for them. I'm glad people who enjoy those kind of movies have that franchise because they're underserved everywhere else.
You know what? David Thornton is a frequent guest at the cons that I work. The dude is amazing. He loves his fans. He is super friendly. He loves talking to everyone. He is a great guy. So you know what? I'm happy to see him getting success with this new franchise. And whether or not you can stand the amount of gore in the Terrifier films, I know a lot of people can't. And if you can't, that's fine. But I would argue that Art the Clown is a welcome addition to the new age horror icons. Right up there with like Ghostface and Jigsaw.
We haven't had a new one in quite a while. I'm happy to welcome Art into that particular club for whatever it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this goes back a few more years, but ironically enough, Terrifier 3 was a pretty significant success financially.
Well, part of the other reason why we're seeing such a wave of this is that horror movies, for the most part, are genuinely very cheap to make. This is why we see so many of them turn into franchises, and to a lesser extent, why we see so many of them become franchises that you see into the dollar bins at Walmart. The studio risks very little in making these, and we have seen a lot of these coming out that, yeah, are dirt cheap to make and are bringing in tons of money for these studios. People said for the longest time that we've been discussing on the show for, you know, I don't know how long, speaking of the dead horse, that studios are suffering. The movie theater industry is suffering. And you can argue till the cows come home that it's that we never really got things back up after COVID, which, yeah, was definitely an issue. But for the most part, people just stopped going to the theaters. And you can say it was part of that was COVID. Part of that was the streaming wars. I mean, you have no idea how many times I see a movie and I go to my husband and I say, hey, let's go see this. And unless it's something that he's really interested in, he'll say, I'll wait till streaming. And that has become the attitude of so many people. But horror films like this are getting people to go back to the theaters. They're getting the movie theaters business. For the longest time, we thought it was going to be big successes like Superman and Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts and all these other big superhero films that were going to pull people back in and get them back in their seats. And no, it's horror movies. I genuinely believe that horror movies are going to be the saving grace of the movie theater industry.
Well, I mean, for as many hits as you have misses. Big budget horror movies miss, like Megan 2.0, that drastically shifted.
But Megan 2.0 wasn't technically horror, though, was it?
It was labeled as a horror movie.
It was sold as one. Whether we would categorize it as such after the fact, it was sold as one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just because they shift their tone, it was shot as a horror movie. It was promoted as a horror movie. You know. Drop had a great premise, a poor execution that fell flat on its face, and I thought the premise of Drop was amazing until I watched it.
Here's the problem with Drop. Okay, so Jas, I'm gonna mispronounce your name, buddy, and I apologize for that. Jas says that, to be honest, I think superhero movies are kind of lame. I think we're kind of getting there culturally. I don't think he speaks for nobody.
It's getting oversaturated. You know,
but
you can't.
Uh-oh. Jayson?
I don't know what happened.
Okay, your camera's gone, but we can still hear you.
There we go.
He's been reclaimed by the.
Yeah,
I was going to say he's been reclaimed by the void.
He escaped the void.
But yeah, I mean, she did have me under a spell for too long. But it's one of those things that superhero movies, you've ran its course. It's ran its course. And studios are trying to grasp onto um, lesser known characters to build franchises. They kind of Marvel kind of shot its load, putting everybody in the first couple of things with Avengers. You don't have anything to go on. So now you're trying to build franchises with like Shang-Chi and Ironheart, which don't get me started there. And you're trying to build off these basically D-list characters and trying to build franchise around it, and it's not going to happen. So that's where the lame. I can understand where the lameness comes from, is because you don't have tentpole characters to build onto.
Yeah, just real briefly because I had a thing on Drop. Drop would be either a really good short or thriller novel or a good short film. It's not a feature length film idea.
If they could have pulled it off a little bit, the payoff was very lame. The setup, the payoff, everything was very lame. And if you would have had it as a more of a threatening antagonist, that movie could have been great. But when you get the build, it's like you get the build and then you see how it plays out. You're like, oh yeah, this guy. It's like you barely you're trying to play a whodunit. You're trying to play through the, and it's just so tired, and it needs to have that payoff.
My thought on that is it's basically a slightly reworked Red Eye. And if Wes Craven, Cillian
Yeah,
Murphy, and like Rachel, was that Rachel McAdams or was that
Yep.
Kate Beckinsale?
yeah.
Rachel
Rachel.
McAdams.
If Wes Craven, Cillian Murphy, and Rachel McAdams can't really make that thing work, I just think that dog doesn't hunt.
Oh yeah.
So my take on this is kind of as follows. Josh Brolin had a bit of a soundbite doing some press ahead of this. That he liked a lot of what the horror movies are offering these days is stuff that you can't get. It's not streaming slop. Now, Josh Brolin is not above a paycheck, for the record.
No.
Now, nor do I blame him, mind you. But
We all need to eat.
the point being raised there is a tone, a tenor, and a feel to the generic stuff that Netflix, Amazon Prime. There was a whole segment last night on Damn You Hollywood where Mark and I went, boy, these Amazon Prime movies kind of suck. And Mark was like, at what point does that start to hurt Amazon Prime? And I laughed. You can't hurt Amazon. Mark, you can't. It's not possible. Doesn't matter how many bad movies they put out. They could put out the worst things in the world.
And they did.
They could green light 5 Room sequels all done by Tommy Wiseau, and they're still not going to get hurt. It's not possible. Anyway.
Don't give him any ideas.
Again, it's not possible. But a lot of these horror movies, there's a couple of things going for them. One, as you mentioned, the budgets are usually a bit on the smaller side. 2, there's an artistic freedom that the horror genre allows, where in the past, a lot of the people trying to explore these ideas might have gone the mid-budget drama range. They might have gone a few different other places. And because those kinds of movies aren't being greenlit by studios for theatrical release for any number of reasons, you twist it. You turn it into a horror movie, and you can then not only get it made, you can use horror to say something kind of interesting. Some of the best art in the cinema, in all of cinema, has come from the horror genre. Not all of it, but some of it. You can't look at stuff like The Exorcist or Silence of the Lambs and tell me otherwise. I mean, again,
Or even Get Out.
Get Out. The Substance was nominated for Best Picture last year. Probably should have won, but we won't talk about that.
I'll say, how many times have we said Demi Moore was robbed?
She absolutely should have won Best Actress for that, but Conclave. Anyway, the Conclave effect is how I should phrase that.
Mm-hmm.
But the horror genre gives you all that space. And third, yeah, a good inventive horror movie is not the kind of thing you will find on browsing through the endless shelves of Netflix or Amazon or Peacock or whatever. So there's a little bit of novelty. There's talented filmmakers with something to say, and there's studio willingness to kind of get behind them for low risk, high reward reasons. It's kind of a perfect storm, especially when a bunch of studios are throwing the gross domestic product of a Central American country at some of these things. And when they get not that end result, it's causing, friction and panic. So yeah.
I'm gonna pose a question. Do you think we ever get a really big budget Marvel-esque horror movie?
I don't think Marvel has the creative stones to do it.
No, I mean,
I would say they
something on
tried that with
level.
New Mutants, and we all know how that worked out.
I'm just saying that somebody that's going to shell out Marvel level movie,
Okay.
Oh,
Marvel
sure.
level money to make a big budget horror movie.
Yeah, they tried that, and it's called the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I refer you to my previous.
Yeah, but it didn't have a massive budget, did it?
Hang on.
Okay, hang on.
I'll let Alexis look that up. While I say, I wish someone would, because for a long time, Guillermo del Toro has been trying to get an At the Mountains of Madness adaptation going.
Please, God.
But he said, I'd need about $100 million budget. Now, this was years ago. It might be different now because of inflation. But he even had James Cameron willing to kind of help produce that. And everybody said, no, we can't do a $100 million R-rated horror movie, even if you get Tom Cruise to star in it. And I can't tell you how pissed off I am as a fan of both Del Toro and H.P. Lovecraft that thing died on the vine. I'm still pissy about it.
The only big budget I can think of is the Tom Cruise failed Mummy remake, and I think that failed because the movie sucked, and Universal was just trying to put something out there, retain the rights.
Okay, did you have the budget on that, Alexis, just for the record?
I was wrong. That was only $35 million. That was actually right around the same as Weapons, but at least that also explains the shitty CGI. But I did manage to get Google AI to give us a list of some of the top recorded, highest budgeted horror movies.
Okay, hang on. Before you get to the list, I do want to address what we have our comment on screen here. The question is, can we do a Spawn remake horror movie? Because Spawn's a little bit of a horror character as a superhero.
Oh, sure.
I don't know what the issue is with the rights to Spawn, but at the moment, I think you'd have a hard time. You shouldn't, but you would have a hard time selling it because the superhero malaise is set in. And in an era where Marvel can't figure out that just getting Blade in a black leather coat and having him kill vampires is the way to go.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
So anyway, to your list, Alexis. But yeah, I would dig a Spawn remake.
We were supposed to get news on a Spawn remake with Jamie Foxx years ago. That thing has been in pre-production hell longer than the Blade movie.
Yeah.
I think let's me and Robert, since Alexis has the list in front of her, what do you think we'll both guess, what do you think the highest budgeted horror movie is? Dollar amount. I'm gonna say 62 million.
Some of this might be older, so I mean we're not adjusting for inflation, right?
I'm simply going off the reported budgets.
I assume there's no adjustment there. So
for the record, none of these movies are that old, so the budget would be probably within the same ballpark.
Okay. Nothing crazy. All right. I actually think you might get into the 80s.
Okay, so 62 and 80s.
All right, boys, you were lowballing it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 films. The lowest one has a budget of $100 million.
Okay, let's hit it.
Okay,
This is interesting.
and okay, so at
Start at the
$100
bottom
million,
and go up.
yeah, I am. Okay, 100 million. Okay, number 5 is a 3-way tie for $100 million.
Okay.
What Lies Beneath, End of Days, and Day Shift from 2022.
Okay.
I understand how we got there with What Lies Beneath and End of Days, because What Lies Beneath has 2 major leads for that time period,
Yeah.
and you're not going to get both Harrison Ford and who was
Michelle
the-
Pfeiffer.
It was Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah. Okay, their salaries take up the bulk of that
Yeah.
budget. I get it. End of Days stars Arnie at a time when that meant something. Okay,
And was crazy high on the CGI.
in places,
Yeah.
absolutely. And man, I got to talk with somebody about that movie one of these days because I got thoughts. Anyway,
Is that do we need to do a Long Road to Ruin or an On Trial for that?
Well, hey, we could do a triple feature. We could do that, End of Days, Last Action Hero, and we'll find another Arnie movie.
you know what? There's ways we can make that work. Anyway, Day Shift surprises me that it's that high.
The CGI.
It's
Yeah.
it was the epic action sequences, Jamie Foxx's payment, and the special effects.
Jamie Foxx
Yeah.
should not cost that much. Moving on.
It's a okay. Number 4, Prometheus, 120 to 130
I
million.
don't consider that horror, though.
I might argue that as well, but for the sake of not arguing it, again, it was sold a little bit as a horror movie. The entire sell job was not high concept sci-fi. The sell job was Ridley Scott's making an Alien prequel. That's
Right.
So by the same logic as a few other things we've talked about, I understand it being there, and you know what? Fair enough.
Horror by osmosis.
And I think
Or
Prometheus
by
gets-
osmosis. I like that.
Wait, does that mean Alien Covenant is above it because that cost more and was infinitely worse?
Yeah.
It's not on my list.
Okay. Yeah. Prometheus gets too much hate, but I understand. I'll go to bat for that movie.
Yeah.
sometime.
Okay, number 3, we have a tie for 150 million.
Okay.
I Am Legend and The Wolfman. I Am Legend, again,
God,
Will
how much they
Smith.
spent on that?
Yeah, I Am Legend, Will Smith demanded a pretty penny, and the desolate New York City landscape was mostly practical sets. There
Yeah.
was very little CGI in that. So
Well, they built a lot of sets, and then they did all the CGI, and that went to the creatures. And when you look at all the creature effects, like that adds up at that time for CGI.
Yeah.
So I had forgotten how much money they spent on the Benicio del Toro Wolfman.
reshoots and changes in the werewolf design caused the budget to
Yeah.
double. It was originally half that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember. I remember that being a huge thing with the reshoots.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was before we knew reshoots were a little more common and sign of
Well,
problems.
there's also reshoots, and then there's reshoots.
Yeah.
That was the latter. I felt so bad for that movie. It's got such a good cast, and there's some sequences in
Yeah.
it that are genuinely good, but
Yeah, it's got a couple of visuals in it that are like amazing, but then you have the whole spectrum of that, and I don't mean that I'm on the spectrum, but
Mhm.
you have great things, and then you have the paint, the Windows Paint level CGI.
in a few places, yeah. All right, so yeah, I forgot how much that one got out of hand. Okay.
Speaking of Windows Paint CGI, at number 2, with 160 to 170 million, Van Helsing.
I feel that's another movie I feel real bad for. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. There's stuff I don't like about it, but I usually do think there's some really good stuff in that movie. Unfortunately, it fell down with its casting of Dracula, which really hurt it.
Casting
Yes.
of Kate Beckinsale too, who Kate Beckinsale is a really good actress. Whoever was her acting coach and her accent coach,
Her
for that
accent's
movie?
off, but I'm not going to complain about Kate Beckinsale getting work as a
Yeah.
general rule. And Hugh Jackman, God bless him, carries as much of that thing as he can.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure personally, but I fully understand the myriad problems with it. So,
I mean,
yeah.
Kate Beckinsale is Underworld. Yes, please.
Okay, hang on. One left.
Do you guys want to?
Hang on. Budget north of 170.
Yes.
So I'm going to think a lot of CGI.
Mm-hmm. Extensive rewrites and
And
7 weeks of reshoots.
Okay, so they shot the thing twice, basically.
Yeah, the initial budget was $125 million.
That's big.
Give me one star of it.
Hang on, wait. Have we mentioned it in passing yet in the course of our conversation?
Actually, I think we if I remember correctly, I think we actually brought that up earlier in the review when we were talking about something else. So we technically
I want to say the Tom Cruise Mummy.
That's kind of where my head went.
I'll give you guys another guess. Do you want another clue?
Yeah, give us a clue.
Yeah, one person associated with it, not necessarily the lead.
Yeah.
Well, see, I can't do that because the lead is the only actor who's worth talking about in this movie.
Give me the director then.
Fuck, I don't remember who directed this. I have to pull it up on IMDb.
Give me the year. Give me the year.
Oh, the year? 2013.
Okay, 2013.
Okay.
Directed by Mark Foster. I don't think that really Mark Forster. Sorry, that's the way it's pronounced. But yeah, you guys aren't going to really recognize any other actor. I mean, there's a handful of decent actors in this: Matthew Fox, Peter Capaldi, David Morse, James Bale, James Badge Dale. But none of them have any real screen time or any real staying power. This movie is remembered for the lead.
Capaldi's limiting my options here. Hang on. Crud. 13. I'm trying to think. I should know this.
Yeah, Jess, no spoilers. You Googled it. You know what it is.
Yeah, I'm looking. I haven't looked. Oh, I know what it is now. Because the only person in it is Brad Pitt.
Wait, Capaldi is in. Oh, he is briefly. Okay, yeah, it's World War Z.
Yep, $190 million budget. Extensive rewrites, 7 weeks of reshoots.
They had to completely reshoot the ending.
Yeah. They actually, there's like 4 endings of that movie.
There are so many, and it's the reason Brad Pitt has said, like, he will never again do something that doesn't have a finished script.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was writing the script as they were. Yeah, and when you said, I was thinking when you said Matthew Fox, I kind of went toward it, and then I was like, no, I don't think that. Don't think that Matthew Fox was in World War Z. And then when I looked it up, and I was like, man, the World War Z. But also, that movie had a nice theatrical gross, even despite everything.
Yeah, I seem to recall. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
How much it made? Hang on a second.
I got it. Hang on.
Oh, you got that one. Yeah. No, it was. Hey, this is not a saying. It's like how much.
Okay. It struggled a bit when you look at just how high the up end of the budget might be.
Right.
The reported budget is somewhere between 190 and 269. If it got to the real high end of that, then its 540 million take wouldn't do it. I forget who Matthew Fox is in that movie, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what threw me off because
Matthew
I
Fox
thought about it.
It just says he's a parajumper.
Yeah, he's one of the background characters when they're in Korea.
Yeah.
See, that's why I couldn't say who else was in it besides the lead, because it's like the minute you say it's a Brad Pitt film, gives it
Well,
away.
I didn't hear you say Muriel Enos, which would have done it for me because I know I'm actually kind of familiar with a bit of her work.
Oh, okay. I have no idea who that is. So
She's the wife in that. I
She's
kind
the
of
wife.
became aware of her because of her work in The Killing, the American remake of the Danish TV show. I think it was Danish or Dutch.
But I think it does go to show that if you want to make a big budget horror film, it can't just be horror. With the exception of What Lies Beneath, and with the exception of What Lies Beneath, all of these are not just horror films. They are major action movies, thrillers. I mean, Van Helsing was supposed to, launch all of these like. It was supposed to be the relaunch of the Universal movie monsters.
Boy, they cannot get that right, and I don't know why they're so stupid. But they tried a little bit with Van Helsing, and then they tried again with the Dark Universe, and that Dracula Untold, I, Frankenstein, and the Tom Cruise Mummy, none of them winners. Not a looker among them, as the phrase goes.
Yeah, and then we got an Invisible Man remake, which was actually a good movie.
Actually, I stand by the ending being wrong, but listen to our review of The Invisible Man if you're so inclined. You can also listen to our review of The Wolfman that came out earlier this year if you're also so inclined and want to hear us talk more about Julie Gardner, believe it or not.
Hey, who doesn't want to hear us talk about Julia Gardner and Lin-Manuel? Lin-Manuel, that was what I almost said. Lin-Manuel. It was like, no, Lin-Manuel, wrong name.
Not Israel.
I'm turning into the female Pedro Pascal. That's where we're just going with this. Did everything.
But it's been a fun 2 hours. But I'm running on fumes here, so I'm gonna have to wrap it up on my end.
All right, go ahead and hit your plugs real fast. Alexis and I will take a brief trip through Rotten Tomatoes, and then we'll call it good.
I mean, really, I don't have anything coming up. I know for a little bit. I think my next appearance on anything is I'm joining Alexis September 3rd for Twisted Metal 2. So that's my next appearance on here, which this season is I'm mixed on. It's got some highs, it's got some lows, and it's struggling a little bit in some areas. So I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Then I'm back on September 16th for the Long Walk, and September 22nd I'm on Damn You Hollywood for him. So I've got a couple of appearances coming up here. In exactly 10 days is the new Christmas, as I tell everybody. The new Christmas is next Friday, August 22nd. That's when they realized I was born instead of Jesus. So with that, I want to go ahead and say my goodbyes. It's always been fun. And Alexis, I'll see you September 3rd.
Yep.
See you later, man. Have a good night.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a quick look at
I was saying, I
Tomatoes.
just love jazz. Like, you guys watch what? Yeah, trust me. All we do is watch movies and TV.
The number of movies that I watch just because it's on the Damn You Hollywood schedule, that the ratio of movies I would watch on my own to movies I watch because of Damn You Hollywood has gone like this over the last few years.
Pretty much. You don't want to know how many TV shows I've had to watch this year. All right, here it is.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right, let me.
Well, this is encouraging. We have a 94% on the tomato meter, and the audience score is at 87.
Yeah, this has been getting almost worldwide critical acclaim. The AI says Zach Cregger spins an expertly crafted yarn of terrifying mystery and thrilling intrigue in Weapons, a sophomore triumph that solidifies his status as a master of horror.
Master's a bit strong.
Yeah, I hate to say it, guys, but I'd like to remind you that's what we said with M. Night Shyamalan after Unbreakable. So let's please not jinx the poor man.
So I'm going to say definitely one of the brightest up and coming horror directors we have, to be sure. And frankly, it's a good thing we have more of them.
Okay. Oh, lesson learned. I actually have to stretch the screen out a little bit here. I didn't realize it was going to translate like that.
Yeah,
okay. So let's just go ahead and look for some negative ones like this one right here at the top. Carson Timar from Clappercast. While Weapons has its moments of fun, Cregger's film feels far more drawn out and imbalanced than it should.
This is a person who struggles with nonlinear storytelling.
Very much
would be
so.
my guess about that. Yeah, look, if you came in expecting a taut 90-minute horror mystery, that is not what this is. It has a much more like pseudo epic scope to it. It encompasses a lot. And if the marketing of that throws you off, I understand, because that's not what it's marketed as, but that's what it is in execution. If you can't pivot as a critic, I don't know how seriously I have to take you.
Barry Hertz from Globe and Mail, top critic. The chapter-by-chapter structure might have seemed cute on the page, but it unintentionally reveals that Weapons is shooting blanks.
Completely
aren't you adorable?
Disagree. Yeah, completely disagree with that one. I actually think it lends a lot to the structure and the way that it builds. But
yeah,
as I said, there's people who didn't get Pulp Fiction either, and this is one of the risks you have when you do this kind of storytelling. It is not an inherent good. It has to be done right, and even when you do it right, the breaking of structure like that is a bit iffy. Didn't bother me. I very much enjoyed it, but pointing it out as a choice that was made, like, look, if you don't like pointillism, you don't like pointillism in art. Like, okay, but just admit you don't like pointillism.
I was going to say, when we reviewed together, we pointed out how many reviewers simply said they said it was a bad movie, but it was clear they didn't like it because they don't like body horror.
Yeah, so it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I get that, but at the same time, it's like, well, we don't want to read a review from somebody who's not the target audience and doesn't understand the target audience.
Well, again, even if it's not your thing, if you treat it fairly, that's your job. So, anyway. Oh, we have a guy who takes Saudi blood money.
What?
I'm pretty sure different magazine that's owned by Saudi at this point. Close enough in title, because what's his nuts? Turki Al-Sheikh bought the Ringer, or bought the Ring magazine.
Okay.
The boxing one. And given what he does, it wouldn't shock me if he did keep boxing, if he kept movie critics on par there to just shill for the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. But that's a whole other topic.
Adam Naiman from The Ringer, not The Ring. The Ringer, again, top critic, a supersized showcase that sadly spreads its maker's gifts thin. It's a curious and frustrating example of how sometimes more is actually less. You get the feeling that some of these negative reviews are from people with severe ADHD who, after a while, just got tired of the multiple point of view story arc.
A little bit. Again, it's definitely a choice as a filmmaker, and when you do it, you do have to understand there's some people who are going to struggle with it. I understand a little bit of the point that sometimes proper editing and proper reduction of scope and ambition makes everything better. I'd argue this is one of those cases when that's not quite true. Mark and I have brought up numerous examples. That doesn't strike me in this case as being one of them.
Shubhra Gupta from the Indian Express, again, top critic. After a point, though, it all starts to feel empty. Monsters without motives are no longer interesting, and the big reveal takes away the much-needed suspense. That's the point of the reveal.
Okay, two things about this. One, it doesn't take away suspense when there's still suspense that derives from knowing the character.
Yeah.
Two, monsters without motives are no longer interesting. I would point you to Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Godzilla. among others. Like, no, that's not true.
I was going to say, we don't need. I'm sorry. Are you upset that we didn't have Gladys sit down and reveal like how long she's been alive and why she needs to steal life force? Sometimes the viewer can simply pick up on the concept that evil is evil and understand that they're doing something wrong. We don't need, we didn't. Apparently, from what I've read, there was going to be a point where we were going to get Gladys's backstory as another chapter in this.
Yeah, it's so unnecessary. I'm glad.
Yeah,
they didn't
I
do it.
agree. I'm not going to lie. I think it would have been fascinating, but unnecessary for the pacing.
We're already at 2 hours. Like, we don't
Yeah.
need her backstory.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I do hope when this gets released on Blu-ray, if they have it written or have maybe
If they
have it
did-
filmed, I would love to see that as a bonus feature.
Yeah, like as a bonus feature, that's really good. That's the kind of
Mhm.
thing that if you're interested and you want to dig and find, thumbs up, but it doesn't need to be in the movie.
Ruben Rosario from Miami Art Zine.
No, you write for a zine. That tells me everything I need to know about you.
I took the words right out of my mouth. As for the
Even
film's
I don't stoop that low, and I write for a pop culture website.
As for the film's title, these are not so much weapons as props. Cregger moves around to satisfy his basest instincts.
If you
I
think
ain't
everything
buying
done
what
here
he's
is- Go
I
ahead.
ain't buying what he's selling, and what he's selling is vacuous nonsense. Oh, okay. Honest question: who actually is a professional writer and uses the word "ain't"?
This is someone overcompensating because he's using vacuous in the same sentence he uses ain't.
Yeah.
I use ain't in conversation on occasion. I don't write it out.
Yeah, I'll use it on occasion when I'm talking, and I know I do this because my mother has repeatedly said, "Don't say ain't."
Yeah, I try not to. It's not one of my favorite words, but it occasionally slips into my lexicon. If you have the time to write and edit and you put it in there, you then overcompensate with stuff like vacuous and pretend that this movie is pretentious, and it's really not. In fact, one of the other things that I appreciate Cregger said when doing press for this was, like a lot of us who watch a lot of horror, he's more than tired of horror as emotional trauma mechanisms.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, this is all about emotional trauma. No, you ain't the Babadook. Go away.
For the record, we talked about that director. She does horror, emotional trauma through horror. We talked about not only the Babadook, but her contribution to Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities and how good that was.
Yeah.
So there are some who can pull that off and do it well.
Like all things, it can be done well, but the number of people who lean on it as a crutch, I mean, even the good movies that tend to overuse it, I mean, Talk to Me was very much in the same vein of like, oh, the trauma of like the drug epidemics in high schools. Like, I'm sorry, I'm over it. Say something better.
Okay, Archie Sengupta from leisurebite.com. You know, this is good when they actually have to include the .com. You can almost taste the potential in weapons, but it ends up being just another okay venture that is too goofy for its own good.
Okay.
Translation, you felt that the chase scene at the end completely destroyed the movie.
Now, as I mentioned, I didn't compare that to Ferris Bueller's epic run for his bedroom for nothing. Like, that is a thing. Freely admit it. Yeah, we didn't mention it before, but the reason that everyone under her spell runs the way that they do.
Yeah, you said you had
I do actually have an answer because
Yeah.
Cregger said why he had them do it. He thought it was the creepiest way to have someone run. It just looks unnatural completely. To be running upright, hands back like that is just wrong.
It feels like, to me, it's
At
not a
least people doing the Naruto run bend at the waist.
Yeah, and that's done for speed. Running like
Aerodynamics,
this
especially not
feels
faster,
like
but-
you have given up all control.
Yeah.
Okay, there's actually a point I'm going to remind to this. That's the way Belle runs in the animated Beauty and the Beast when she's running through the field. It's because she is like, I need more. I want to feel.
Yeah.
So to the idea of running like that, it really feels like there is nothing holding these kids back. It is
something
just
about here just yanking you forward.
Exactly.
So yeah, anyway, that's why. But this movie doesn't lean into goofy. Again, it's got moments. The whack-a-mole sequence with with the junkie is certainly one of them. It's punch, unconscious, punch, punch.
I was waiting. I was waiting at one point for Archer to just be like, like that scene in Snatch where the guy is just like, for fuck's sake, just like, why won't you stay down?
The fact that he then like gives him the attitude adjustment a few times, like throws him over. Again, I'm not saying there's nothing in here that might not elicit a chuckle, but it doesn't go as goofy as Barbarian did. Frankly, it's not even as goofy as the end of Malignant. I loved that one. That takes a hard 180 tonally.
All right. Gavin Spores from Mediaversity Reviews. Weapon squanders its potential by rehashing outdated stereotypes.
Okay, this is the kind of person
stereotypes?
How dare we have an evil old witch? I guarantee you that's it. That's the extent of what this idiot thought.
I was going to say, I'm sorry. Next time the witch will be a attractive transgender Asian. I don't know.
But we can't have evil female characters these days. It's reductive. That's the level of analysis Gavin Spores brings to this discussion. He's not to be taken seriously.
Yeah, no kidding. Tina Kakadelis from Beyond the Cinerama Dome. Weapons proves Cregger's deft directing abilities, but begs the question, couldn't there be a better reason for some kids to run away in the middle of the night? In other words, you probably came up with what you think is a better story arc, and you're mad that you weren't right.
One, if you think you can do it better, and I'm not saying this glibly, do it. If this inspired you to come up with the same similar premise and then do it better, go, do, try, seriously. Second, no. Also, that's not begging the question. I hate it because this is a thing. Begging the question is not a way of saying asking the question. Begging the question is a rhetorical device wherein you ask the question in such a way that it presupposes the answer. I hate how we have destroyed the meaning of that phrase because it actually means something very specific.
Sean Burns from North Shore Movies. If this guy ever decides to make a movie that's about something, he's going to knock it out of the park.
In other words, if he actually becomes more pretentious, I'll start pretending that I understand it for bad cred.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, are you mad that this movie doesn't have like a hardcore Spielbergian style message?
Or just a message that he agrees with.
Richard Brody from The New Yorker, top critic.
Oh, the vaunted New Yorker. You can tell it's the New Yorker because he starts a sentence with facile.
Yeah, forgive me. I actually see that word so rare I didn't know how to pronounce it. Facile sensationalism cuts the movie off from its own most powerful implications, blocking any view of a recognizable world.
Okay, ridiculous sentiment.
I think my brain just blue screened a little there.
Okay. As a guy who has access to a fairly extensive vocabulary, you're doing that just to show off, not because it's specific, and you're also doing it because you think the New Yorker demands it. Third in the list, if you don't understand how this is actually a fairly accurate representation of this kind of a place and how people react, I can't help you. You're too used to the urban wasteland.
Zachary Barnes, Wall Street Journal, top critic. Once Mr. Cregger starts to let loose his revelations, though, disappointment creeps in and the scale and soul of the film shrink before our eyes. I'm getting a feeling that a lot of these people were really hoping for something a lot more malicious and conspiracy theory-esque rather than
I guarantee you, if this had been about government mind control, they'd have been just all over it because of course they would.
Yeah. Saw a couple of other
Because
ones. on here.
I didn't talk about it a whole lot, but this is kind of a real old school zombie movie. And I mean, when I say old school, I mean pre-George Romero. If you look at how original zombies were, it was mostly mind control rather than undeath. That's more what this is. And frankly, I'm glad Cregger resuscitated some of that. It's not exactly that, but I'm cool with the evil witch coming to town and the indelible mark that she leaves being a stain on the soul of suburbia. Like, that's not a bad thing.
Agreed. Ian Simmons from Kicking the Seat. Don't do that, people.
Don't
please.
do that.
Weapons is what you'd get if Neon released a third-rate mashup of It and Children of the Corn as adapted by James Gunn. Okay. First of all, James Gunn is right now the highest paying, biggest, most winning director in Hollywood. So your little insult there means nothing.
So a couple of things about this. One, you didn't actually watch Children of the Corn, clearly. Two, your knowledge of It goes as deep as clown makeup.
And disappearing children.
And your knowledge of James Gunn is way off. If this was directed by James Gunn, the needle drops would have been very different.
I'll admit, I did think Children of the Corn briefly, but was during the scene at the climax with the kids chasing them, because I was reminded of the kids chasing Linda Hamilton, and I don't remember the lead actor's name.
You don't remember Christopher Reeve?
No, he wasn't. That was it. No, I'm talking about the original Children of the Corn, not Children of. You're thinking of Village of the Damned.
I'm pretty sure he's in both.
No, he is not in the original Children of the Corn.
I will double check that, but it's somebody I recognize.
He may have been in one of the Children of the Corns. I think you're thinking of the Village of the Damned that had Christopher Reeve and Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, because that was I know that one. That was because that was a remake of the original.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're right. Hang on. Why did I? Yeah, Peter Horton.
Thank you.
I think who it was.
Because I will never forget the scene of the kids chasing them through the street, and the one kid just doing that style growl that still makes me laugh every time.
The only thing everyone else remembers is Outlander. We have your woman.
Well, that and the guy who played the lead, who was just you know what? It was a corny as hell role, but he was freaking phenomenal in the role as Isaac.
Child actor who knew how to be menacing.
Not a child actor.
All right.
He has the condition where he looks and sounds a lot younger, but he was, I think, 25.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Yeah.
No, again, corny over the top as hell, but I feel that was what was required for that
pretty
role.
Much. Yeah, so Simmons is weird.
Another comment here from Jas. I feel like I got to develop a lisp here. I feel this movie may be a bit too spiritual for me. I do prefer actual viruses over witches or whatever supernatural stuff. Fair point.
It's fair. Like, there is a bit once the witch shows up, like, you have to be willing to go with the effects of magic that she brings. So,
all right, let's find like maybe one or two more, because again, most of these are positive.
Hey, look, there's Jeremy.
Oh, did I scroll past?
You did. Scroll back down a little bit. You just again, go back up. And stop.
Oh, no wonder. It's only one line. The journey getting to the end, ... is pretty awesome.
I wonder what's in that ellipsis. You can do a lot of work with that.
No argument, Jeremy. Okay.
Anyone else down near the bottom? Not too many people we recognize here. Oh, there's Doug Walker.
Walker, channel awesome. Scary, fun, suspenseful, mysterious, and unpredictable. We're in a great age for horror films.
I hate agreeing with Doug Walker, but a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
I actually watched his review, and again, there's a handful of critics that I do like to watch their video reviews before we do ours, just to see if there's something they picked up on that I may have missed. or to get a better idea of like, oh, that's actually an interesting point to talk about. And he was one of the ones who talked about this new renaissance of horror that we're into. So I'm not saying he was the only one. I'm not saying, oh, I got my idea from Doug Walker. There were several who talked about it. It's
one a thing that's kind of been bubbling up a little bit recently, and Weapons seems to have been the tipping point for a lot of people to start talking about it.
Yeah, because he did also review Together, and he talked about that and Sinners and Companion, and how those were all he gave good reviews to all of them and how much he enjoyed them. And he's right, those are, this is the stories. We talked about that. Here's another one we recognize, Grace Randolph, Beyond the Trailer. Deeply disturbing, but intentionally so. With some striking visuals and clever storytelling, Weapons will haunt you. Madigan becomes an instant horror icon, while Ehrenreich and Abrams give the film a lot of humor and heart. Very good theater experience.
Ehrenreich still trying to rehab from both Solo and Ironheart, and God bless him, he's trying.
Well, he can't.
He makes some faces in this movie that I heard somebody liken it to Ray Liotta. Not quite that good, because Ray Liotta was awesome, but
yeah, I think Jeremy Johns. There's another one.
We already did that one.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay.
Kurt Loder.
How are you still alive?
This is basically a weekly wellness check on Kurt Loder is what we do here.
There are some fright-lightening chuckles, but the movie's central intention is to creep you out and to knock you back in your seat with highly persuasive demonstrations of skin ripping and skull pulping.
I do need to say very briefly, of all the kitchen implements you could use to try and elicit a visceral response from the audience, the potato peeler was not the one to go with for this one.
Oh, that didn't creep you out? I was squirming at that.
No. There's other things you could have gone for. I think I applaud the attempt for not just going to like the corkscrew or...
Well, we already got that with Companion.
Again, for not going to the old reliables, I appreciate you reaching out. I would have gone with the cheese grater personally, but
well, in all fairness, it wasn't about the implement itself. It was about the fact that the cop
he doesn't react. Yeah,
exactly. That's what makes the scene so terrifying. Is that she's peeling his skin off, and he's not even blinking.
The problem again, I think where it kind of missed for me is the non-reaction to it is it falls like that's what we're going for, but because it's like shaving, it doesn't quite read the same as, oh, he's not reacting to it. Like, under the right circumstances, enough adrenaline, maybe you wouldn't. I would have gone cheese grater like right across here. And then when he doesn't react to blood starting to run down his face, I think you get a bigger reaction from the audience, but that's a real minor thing, and that's just me. So, mileage varies.
Okay. Jonathan Itkonen from toysto.net. I've probably just massacred all parts of that. Weapons features brilliant performances and a superlative first act, all let down by a mess of a second half. Again, someone who didn't like the idea of using a witch.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are going to struggle with that a little bit, I think. And I'm, again, clearly not... Oh, Dan Merle. Scroll back up a little bit. There he is.
Dan Merle reviews. Sometimes a slow burn leads to a spectacular explosion. Sometimes it fizzles out. Weapons does both, and which one of those impresses / angers you the most will ultimately decide where you fall on the movie.
You know what? I don't think that's an inaccurate summation of the ending. I really don't. So there's that.
Let's see if we can find anyone else we recognize. Why are some of these getting highlighted?
Oh, hey, look, there's Travis Hobson.
From Punch Drunk Critics. Weapons is a horror classic that people will be revisiting for many years to come, establishing Cregger as one of the best the genre has to offer.
Little bit hyperbolic, but in general, yes. Oh, wow. Amy Nicholson liked something. We never get that.
From the Los Angeles Times, top critic. Weapons
this week it's the Los Angeles Times. She bounces around a lot.
Well, she's a freelancer, I guess. Weapons
Probably.
is an even grander statement of disorder by design. A compellingly sloppy tale, it splices together a half dozen protagonists and no heroes. These 6 spiraling victims never grasp the full story behind the violence.
That's a fair point, that neither Archer nor Justine, who are kind of the de facto big
Leads.
two,
Yeah.
never figure it out necessarily. They know something's up. They show up because something's up there, and that's when everything goes to hell. It's really only Alex who knows the full scope of what happened.
Yeah. I don't think Archer is ever going to totally understand what happened to his son. Andre actually joked as we left the theater. He said, "So, do you think Justine got arrested for shooting the cop in the head?"
My hunch would be not, but at that point, there's something about the way the kid's opening narration that implies there's a non-trivial cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine they just kind of went, okay, things went bad. And chose not. And I mean, William Bibiani. Come on,
William,
man.
friend of the show, the rap top. Let's end on
Best
this.
friend of Mark Radulich and frequent collaborator. I'm the future ex Mr. Radulich.
What Cregger's getting at seems a lot less frightening and a lot more contrived than it would have had he not invited us to ponder more powerful possibilities for over an hour before tipping his hand. There are so many people here who really didn't like The Witch.
Yeah, that really is kind of the crux for some of these reviews.
All right, let's go ahead and cut that.
Yeah, we've passed 2.5 hours. We're longer than the movie now. Let's go ahead.
We had the plot alone took forever to go through.
Some of that was me.
In all fairness, folks, if we had just simply gone the way the Wikipedia thing is, because the Wikipedia actually says film presented in a non-linear narrative, jump between various characters whose stories intersect. The following is a linear summary of the plot. We could have done that.
Could have, but it's not as fun.
Yeah. Sorry,
I just start the witch arriving and the whole thing's different.
Sorry, I just saw there was a breaking news thing. I was like, please tell me it's nothing. No, it's something to do with Miranda Lambert. I'm fine.
Okay. So thank you all very much for tuning in. We deeply appreciate it. Hanging out. If you were here live, if you're after the fact, interact with us, please, somehow, whatever your podcast platform of choice is. Some kind of interaction helps the algorithm. Doubly so on YouTube, because YouTube is trying things. They're trying things, and we're not sure it's good, but they're trying. So, Alexis, what do you have to plug for us this evening?
All right. Well, like was mentioned before, I will be here tomorrow night for a very special TV party tonight. Jesse Starcher and I are starting our Stranger Things retrospective.
All downhill from season 1.
Jazz, thank you for all the comments, man. We'll see you next time. Hopefully we can see you again. If you're up for a TV party tonight, starting at 8 o'clock Central Time tomorrow, we're going to be starting our Stranger Things retrospective. We are doing 1 season per month leading up to the grand finale in January. So we're going to be looking at 4 seasons and 1 comic book, Stranger Things meets Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Of all the crossovers they could have done.
After that, I will be back next week with Mr. Mark Radulich. We're going to do another TV party tonight talking about season 4 of Resident Alien, because the world needs more Alan Tudyk, especially after the news broke this week about what he had to go through with the iRobot promotional tour.
Poor guy. That should have been a much bigger deal for him. Instead, all he did was get hung out to dry on a harpoon.
Pretty much. It does seem strange. Parting words. I like that. After that, I finally get a week off. And then Mr. Jayson Teasley will be joining me and occasional collaborator Josh Theno to talk season 2 of Twisted Metal. Looking forward to that. Then our unholy trinity, as we like to call ourselves, the three of us who end up talking horror movies for the Rattlechen Broadcasting Network because we're the three with the strongest stomachs. Sorry, tell me I'm wrong. We're coming back to talk.
I have desensitized a lot of Mark's stuff over the last 5 years. It's been a project, but I think we've gotten most of the way there.
You know what? He put the substance on his top 10 of 2024, so you're definitely making some strides. We'll be coming back to talk The Long Walk. This is the latest adaptation of Stephen King's work. We're all really excited to do.
I believe it's the only major adaptation of that. I think a few like small budget student films have tried it, but I don't think The Long Walk has ever had a major adaptation.
Well, looking forward to it. Let's see if we can find another banger horror movie for 2025.
Depending on how you want to categorize it, The Running Man is also a Stephen King story. Also features Josh Brolin, who we just talked about.
I don't know if I'm on the Damn You Hollywood for that, but I would like to be. I need to take a look at my schedule, see if I can jump in on that, because I am... You know, we talked about this on the network chat with some of the guys calling it a flat out remake. It's like, no, it's not a remake because it is a more faithful adaptation of the book. Yeah, because the original Running Man, they basically said, well, here's the basic story. Yeah, but we cast Arnold Schwarzenegger in the lead. Well, screw this. It's an Arnold movie.
Yeah, the original, which I don't have a lot of fondness for, but other people do, so I'm not going to be disparaging.
If you like 80s cheesy Arnold movies, and, you know, some people do love that kind of stuff, go for it.
On the right night, I am not above it. Again, I am not going to sit here on some kind of, like, ivory tower and pretend otherwise. Like, I'm above that.
Hey, that you know what? Sometimes we all want to watch Demolition Man and the original Total Recall.
Yeah, they're great. But yeah, that one, it's because this movie is not a remake of the original movie. It's another adaptation of the source material, not a remake. 80s movies being the best from Jasp. I go back and forth on that one. My favorite movie decade is in flux pretty constantly, but yeah.
80s did give us some really good stuff. 80s gave us the most trauma that we have continuously put more generations through.
80s kids material raised, I think, some of the more resilient adults that we've had. Mostly because Don Bluth understood how to speak to kids.
Yeah, scared the ever-loving shit out of them.
No. His philosophy is very simple. You can make a dark story for kids as long as you have the happy ending. That's the important part for kids. Not that everything's great, but no matter how bad it gets, it can get better and it can have a happy ending. And I don't disagree with that whatsoever. Don Bluth is great.
Agreed. I still can't watch that scene in All Dogs Go to Heaven where Charlie has the nightmare, and I have never been able to sit through Never-Ending Story again.
My thing with All Dogs Go to Heaven was I found out the actual story behind
Judith
Burt
Barcy.
Reynolds' final recording.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if you've never heard it, will rip your heart out. Yeah, so that one I struggle with now because I can't not see what's actually going on there.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, but yeah, so we got that. We got a lot more TV party tonight's coming up. As soon as we get a few more things on the schedule. Jesse Sarcher, in addition to coming back next month to discuss season 2 of Stranger Things, we're also going to be discussing season 2 of Gen V as we build up to the finale of The Boys.
Boy, that's going to be wild.
I know, right? And of course, we also have Peacemaker season 2, which is coming out. I don't think the dates are set on that yet. And as soon as the dates are also out, I wanted to talk to you and Jason about potentially doing Welcome to Derry. Thought that could be a good entry for the three of us.
I gotta think about that one. I've not been thrilled with the material I've seen thus far, but I'll see. Again, my schedule might also change, so I'm not going to address that.
Dude, come on, don't depress us.
That's you're going to get me on a religious tangent, and I know he's a militant atheist, so out of respect for his beliefs not being mine, I'm going to leave it alone.
All right. As far as the Honeysuckle Hustle, Mark is going to regret every day that he ever made that song about me.
What you should do is put it on the soundboard and play it as a jingle before you do your plugs.
If I knew how to work the soundboard, I would. I honestly don't know how to do. Mark has not trained me how to do that because he knows I will abuse the hell out of it.
That's fair enough.
All right. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. I have been working my butt off because the week before last, we were in Omaha for Comic-Con, Nebraska, had a blast, great show. And in 2 days, I will be heading out to Colorado Springs for the Colorado Springs Comic-Con. We do that one every year. I'm not getting into that.
When I say I respect his atheism is not a lack of beliefs, it's a lack of belief in higher power. But when I say so for the record, when I say your beliefs, I'm just talking about the way in which you order and go about your existence with the world, not necessarily implying that you have beliefs in a higher power. So, but you have a belief structure because we all do.
And hey, Zachary Strobel, yay! I will be in your neck of the woods. I'm not heading as far as Denver. I will, like I said, I'll be in Colorado Springs. That's a great show. We've been doing it for years. Absolutely love it. Expecting a killer turnout this year because we're going to have some amazing celebrities, including a good chunk of the View Askew universe, including Mr. Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. Love it when they come out to the shows. They always bring the fans. As always, you can find us on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. This is usually the part where I say our stores are fully stocked. I should add an addendum at this moment. We have had to take a few items off of our store, namely our Clue items. Honeysuckle Rose Creations specializes in upcycling game tokens into fun pieces of jewelry, and one of our biggest sellers has always been our items made from Clue tokens, especially our charm bracelets. We have had a massive run on orders for those over the last month. I don't know why. I don't know if I got highlighted on some website or something, but we have gotten so many orders in for them that I realized that I had actually run out of Clue tokens. So I have managed to get enough to pull in to handle these last few orders, but I have been putting in bulk orders for a majority of shops that we buy through on eBay. But until we have a decent back supply, again, I am not relisting those bracelets. I don't want to fall back into this again where it's a case of, okay, now we got to list and once again I'm out. So if you are interested in our Clue bracelets, just give it a little bit of time. I promise they will be added to the store again before too long. I just got to wait for these supplies to come in. And of course, you can always follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Screw You, Twitter, Not Looking Back, and TikTok. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
You can find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com, in addition to all my work over here. I do WWE SmackDown on Fridays, UFC events on Saturdays, and occasionally pinch hit elsewhere. In fact, this month I will be covering events on Sundays, the 24th and the 31st. I will be tackling AEW's Forbidden Door and WWE's Clash in Paris. So if any of that sounds interesting, stop by. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, wherein I yammer on about news and combat sports. And this last week was a review of UFC on ESPN 72, a preview of UFC 315. And I was, as usual, a day late and $1 short because Monday, after I recorded, the UFC dropped news that they dropped the new broadcast deal. They're going to be on Paramount and CBS. They are getting $7.7 billion over the next 7 years. Paramount is paying more for that over the same time period than they are for South Park, Premier League, and one other thing I can't remember combined. It's crazy. So I will be talking about all that this week. So if any of that interests you, stop on by. I record that Sundays, goes up Monday. I can be your companion on your drive to work if you still do that, because that's the thing.
What'd you do to get banned from X, man?
So my coverage is actually on 411. It's the website is 411mania.com. There's an MMA zone. That's where all my updates go. I do very little promotional work, or I might like retweet finishes that I see, but I'm fairly benign over there, and I don't think I have alternate social media accounts because I have never seen any appreciable traction gained on them, but individual results will vary as far as all of that goes. Anyway, that's where you can find me on other places. So yeah, all right, that's it for us. Thank you all very much for tuning in again, live or after the fact. We appreciate the heck out of you. Stay safe out there and continue to be well, be safe, and behave.